Htp family. I don't know if this thing is really playing, but Htp family, you're tuning into the Pro Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. And what I would like for you to remember is that I'm part of a podcasting network called KWAZ Radio. Kofi's here. He says, greetings. Today is the Ask Me Anything. I'm going to call myself a Pan-African Multi-Nationalist today because I forgot the other name I was going to call myself. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, any questions at all, feel free to ask me anything. I'll try my best to answer, more of the appropriate ones, right? But before we get started, like I said, let's remember that we're part of a podcasting network called KWAZ Radio. Now, this podcast is sponsored by the Book of Power. Get you a copy wherever books are being sold. Actually, no, there's a black book owner, so you guys should go and get yourself a copy from that black book owner. As you can see, for those of you that know, this book is tremendous. So you'll get your money's worth. Let me show you. It's about the size of a grown man's chest. It was actually so heavy. I had to put it in my. my bag, my suitcase, because I couldn't. It was just too heavy in Africa. You see that the text gives you a whole bunch of things. Joseph Benyakinen's advice on love, among other things. And I'm probably going to use this book a lot for this Ask Me Anything because the book is so big that it contains a lot of answers. That said, I'm going to go over to the Discord where I recorded some questions that people asked. And of course, like I said, if you're in the chat and you have any questions, let me know and we can go over that as well. So let's see. I'm guessing the first question will be, explain how this is right. Okay, I'll show you guys this link. Interestingly, I thought this was such an interesting thing that I actually designed the question myself. Some of these questions are going to be designed by me until you guys also design questions. Let's see if I can. Hold on a second. I just realized I have to move this tab, and hopefully there's not going to be an endless stream of things. It's been a while since I've been on my computer setup. As you guys know, I've been in Tanzania for a minute. Kofi says you need to do digital books as well. I'm thinking about it. One of the things that's because I stole so many books, as a book thief, it's like it's just bad karma to publish your books for free. I mean to publish your books digitally, it's just like you just asking for karma, if you believe in that, to return your way. Let's see if the internet is showing. Yep. All right. So check this out. Let's make sure everything's good. All right. It says, "Careful, mate. That foreigner wants your cookie." This is a white man pointing to a black man and showing the white man with one cookie. And he's saying, "Careful, mate. That's how thing, right?" And so political maturity is understanding that the middle guy isn't wrong. But Africans are not, I repeat, are not ready for that conversation. So my question, my own question, is explain this. For an Ask Me Anything, let's say I said this and it was a little controversial, right? And it really wasn't. Nobody paid attention. Right? It's like nobody paid attention. But notwithstanding, let's say it's a little bit controversial, right? Why is this political understanding? Okay, so you have to realize, right, that there are two main classes in any nation. We're talking about nation building. We're talking about real nation building. There are two main classes. There's this guy who's the overclass, right? And there are these two who are the underclass. Okay? The job of the overclass, right, is to provide for his people. Okay? This guy's job is to provide for this person, not to provide for this person. All right? So I'll give it to you this way. Let's say I go to Tanzania and I'm accepted as a Tanzanian, or I'm accepted into Tanzania, so on and so forth, right? My political objective, right, is to provide for the Tanzanians. You know, not even the Rwandans, not even the Ugandans, it's to provide for the Tanzanians. Now listen to me. Now that's my political objective, that's my political truth, right? As a Pan-African multinationalist, you can say, hey, you know what? I'm really about multiple nations, not just one, right? That's the difference between a Pan-African nationalist and Pan-African multi-nationalist, just to clarify, right? It's like you're really about Africa, but you're also about more than one nation. So you could say, hey, you know what? My objective is really to provide for the Ugandan, as well as the Rwandan, as well as the Tanzanian inside of Tanzania. That's fine. However, I'm not supposed to be providing for the European in the same way that I'm providing for the Tanzanian. I'm not supposed to be providing for the Italian or the German or the Chinese in the same way that I'm providing for the Tanzanian. Now, I could throw them a bone, of course. But it's as the overclass is saying, look, he's trying to take your cookie. You know? If the Chinaman comes into Tanzania, let's say I'm in Tanzania, right? Because I feel like maybe that's where I'm going to locate myself, right? Yeah, I gave it away. All right. If I'm in Tanzania, right? And the Chinaman is sitting around like, hey, you don't give me blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, motherfucker, you're not black. You understand? And so what this white man is saying, the same thing. He's like, look. This is a foreigner. He's not white. He's not American. He's not us. He's not European. Now you might say, the white man's like, well, look, I got all these cookies. I could share with both of them. And that's what these white people want you to believe. They want you to believe that this white man has a responsibility to share with everybody on the same way. But realistically, and this is one of the more important notes that you want to realize, what this individual, let's just say, just generally speaking, what this individual does with his money versus what this individual does with his money are two different things. And this is what we have to understand, that when we establish our own overclass in Africa, is that what our overclass will be doing will be different from what our underclass is doing. You know, sure, does this man want to feed his family? Sure. And this man can feed his family with one cookie just the same. What does he do with the other cookies? Or let's say you give this guy 10 cookies and you give this guy 10 cookies. What is he going to do with 10 cookies versus what is he going to do with 10 cookies? Who has the political connections? Who has the economical connections? Who has the instruments? Who has the industries? Who has the technical know-how and the access to the technical know-how? You understand? This is what white people are saying to themselves. They're asking themselves, between this man and this man, and of course we don't know these men. In fact, they're not even real men. These are just two pictures of two different individuals, one older, one younger, one in a work suit, one in a suit, right? However, I want you to project onto this the idea of, well, if there's an overclass and if there's an underclass, right? Who is more equipped, even mentally? Not just mentally, physically and financially. And of course you might say, well, the finances are so on and so forth. Okay, if all finances were equal, who is more equipped mentally and physically to serve the nation? Or to govern the nation, or to provide for the nation? And I'm not going to say that he does a good job. I'm not. But what I want you to understand is that when I say political maturity is that what we are going to do as an African people is we're going to have an overclass that is providing for its people, that is building the schools, that is building the institutions, that is responsible and following a regular code of ethic and so on and so forth. We want that for our overclass.
Okay? And it's not a general sentiment. It's not even what you expect for a general sentiment. This guy, of course, it's not a real person, but you can make up things about him. Now, maybe he's a rocket scientist. Maybe he's a physicist. Maybe and even if he were these things, just simply being a physicist, just simply being a rocket scientist, simply being a good guy and a good father does not mean that you can organize a nation. And I'm not saying this man, because he's whatever he is, we don't know what he is, right? You could give him any sort of title. I'm not saying that he necessarily so on and so forth, but this is the thing about autonomy. Okay, this is the thing about autonomy. The whites selected this man to rule them. You understand? Or this man set himself up in a nation to rule. Right? And this man didn't. And maybe it's a historical legacy. It doesn't even matter. It's not even important. What's important is that they have that sort of governing body. They have that overclass and underclass. What you have right here is a man sitting, oh my gosh, why can't I get any food? Okay? That's what you have. What you have is another man looking at two other men having a family affair and wondering why he doesn't have a plate. What you have is somebody going into somebody else's birthday party and saying, why don't I have any cake? I wasn't invited. Or even, I was invited, and then they didn't kill me. And now I'm just wondering why I can't eat like them. Why I can't get more than they do. Why I can't get as much as they do. It's not built for you. Their family is not for you. And just like when they come to Africa, you have to tell them, hey, look, this is not for you. Now, if you want fast internet, if you want clean water, you probably could get that. But as far as, oh, are we going to give you what we have made for ourselves? No. And it returns to you. It returns to you. I hope that's satisfactory for those of you listening. Hope that's satisfactory for those of you listening. Let's go to the next question, unless somebody has a follow-up that they want to address. I see Kofi's in the chat. I see it says like maybe 4 people. So that's a pretty good number. Let's let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Let's go to the next question. This one looks like an image. So let's see. All right. So it looks like an image. I don't know how to. Let me see if I can share this image somehow. I'm gonna copy message link into Firefox, into the Windows, and hopefully this does something. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna see if this works. It says app is detected. Continue in browser. I have to log in, so I can't do that. Let's see if I can do this another way. It's a little bit advanced. Apparently, I saved a clip. Copy link, open link. Doesn't work. Give me 2 seconds, fam. Let's see, copy message link. Okay, copy link. Let's do that. I think I did copy message link before. We're just trying to work. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. Let's go to. No, not sexy. Yeah. All right. It looks like the image is a little bit in the way. Lero's here. Peace and love, fam. Lero's here. Mrembo Lero. And Rambo means beautiful, right? Happy Sunday, she says to Kofi. You shouldn't say nothing to me. All right, fam. So let's see if the screen's being shared. Yeah, the screen's being shared. Make sure you guys tell a beautiful black woman that she's a beautiful black woman. All right. All right. So anyway, so comments on reading Chinwezu's essay 2 on negrophobia, psychoneurotic obstacles to black autonomy. I'm guessing I read this. Kwasi asked me, Amponsa says, beyond reading Baba Chinwezu's work and talking about it online, what ways do we move towards actually using this information? far too often I see many study groups and analytics online. But when you try to connect with these folks on the ground, they are doing absolutely nothing beyond so-called raising consciousness on the internet. Good point. I think I said, unfortunately, you'll need to think beyond we. Connecting on the ground means connecting on the ground. What grounds are you seeking to connect with others on? Are you there? Who else is there? Connect with them. The internet has proven itself a distraction, so take what you can, but do not wait on it to function in a way you have not observed it to function for you. I hope that helps. I think I a little bit broadened the explanation on Twitter, so I'll say part of life is recognizing which organizations you're part of and following the instructions of the leadership there. On the internet, chances are you're not in the same organization of the people who you are just meeting. So, Lero says, I said peace and love. What? And thank you for recognizing my beauty, King. You looking dapper up there. Continent did you some good, I see. You already know. Lero. Yeah, Lero, don't make me blush. All right, boys. What was I saying? So, yeah, so the guy's like, look, I'm on the internet, and everybody's just on the internet talking. Family. The internet is for talking. I mean, realistically, the song goes, the internet is for porn, right? like, if y'all don't know this song, it's a song called The Internet's for Porn. The internet is for talking. Like you know, or even if you use that internet for porn, it's not for having sex. It's for watching people have sex. You know? It's not for building. It's watching people talk about building. You know? The internet is good for information purposes, for, you know, generally for talking, right? However, if you are really trying to build things, one, build yourself. Okay, build your damn self. And part of building yourself is the three ways that, you know, I say it on probably the end of every podcast, but as well, the ancient Egyptians would say this to each other. They would say, Anku Ja Seneb, right? Yeah, they say Anku Ja Seneb, right? Some people would say Anku Ja Seneb Neb. Now, this was like a regular greeting. I'll show you guys how it looks a little bit. I think you put your left hand forward and your, you know, like that. Anku Ja Seneb or something like that, right? That is what they would say to each other. That's what they would say after saying somebody's name, like, oh, you know, Ramses III, Anku Ja Seneb. Like, we wish you health, wealth, we wish you life, health, and wealth. Ankh, all right, Ankh is life, obviously. Uja is wealth. Seneb is health, right? Those are the three things you want to master. One of these brothers, I actually met this guy recently. He's my favorite, one of my two favorite living African American scholars. Asara Motep. Met this brother, right? He's huge, right? But met him. Brother's like, he's doing this thing, I think it's Kimoyo, right? Kimoyo is this, you know, Congolese description of spirituality, right? And he's like, in the Congolese description of spirituality, they're really focusing on human beings, like in the community, improving their health, wealth, their life, health, and wealth. And I'm like, bro, that's very parallel to the ancient Egyptian life, you know, Anku Ja Seneb. And he's like, coincidence, right? Coincidence. Why does he say coincidence? Because this is what spirituality really was. You know, it's not just, you know, oh, look at these ghosts and shit. No, it is living in such a way that you are ahead in life, ahead in wealth, and ahead in health. Right? You're good in life, you're good in wealth, you're good in health. That's when you are a spiritual being. You know, when you're looking good, you're looking young, you're looking healthy, you know, that's when you're recognized in the future. You know, when you look back at your parents talking about one of your grandparents and they're like, yo, that dude had a good life. Oh man, he has a good health. And guess what? He has some good health, wealth. That's what you have to first build, if anything. Now, when you have that wealth, what you can do with that wealth is grow it. Okay? What you could do with that wealth is grow it. You know, when you have that good life, you could do with that life is fucking grow it. What does growing your life mean? It means having kids who also have good lives. You know what I mean? It means having dating a woman or dating a man if you're a woman, right? But dating the other person and giving them a good life, a better life, right? Health, everybody knows what good health is. You don't fucking die when you're 20, right? Like, you don't die of a heart attack when you're 20. But the point being, and I don't mean to curse. This is my AMA. I shouldn't curse. But the point being is that you have to pursue good life, good health, good wealth, right? When you have those, you can now do it on a collective basis. So there's this video I have on YouTube recently. I put it up. It's not a short per se, but you guys check it out. I'm talking about how the world is a competition, but a competition of cooperatives. And you have to then have your cooperatives, right? You have to then form your cooperatives. Your cooperatives can be your family. Your cooperatives can be your corporations. Your cooperatives can be your businesses, right? But I say all this to say that you are now, like, you can expand your wealth, health, and life. You can, right? You can. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. These, reading these scholars, listening to these lectures, doing all that kind of stuff is okay, right? But there's a limit. There's a limit. I was one time working on this book. I want to tell you guys, I was one time working on this book that it was like a choose your own adventure. And the at one point the protagonist goes into they go into, like, they invited to a secret society, because I was invited to a secret society, right? So they get invited to a secret society, and the reason why I didn't go through is because I keep talking about it, right? But anyway, I was invited to a secret society, right? This secret society, right, says, hey, you have to read a certain list of books, right? Now you read those books, and then after that, let's say this, you have a choice. Do you read more books, or do you just work with what you have? And the trouble with us is that we decide to read more books. We decide to go into more discussions. We decide to so on and so forth. No, what you want, and this is what everybody else is doing, you form a foundational understanding. You form a foundational understanding, right? And then you can continue in your studies, but it has to be actionable, right? I'll give you an example just for whatever. When I was doing physics, you have the fundamental, like you have a fundamental study, and then you put it into practice, okay? You put it into practice, and you only read in particular to what you are trying to accomplish. I could actually show you guys one of the books I was using for physics. I'll show you that. Sorry, hold on a second. I'll show you that. So it's like this. This is Chandrasekhar. I don't know if you guys can see it, right? Hydrodynamic and hydromagnetic stability, right? So this dude's an Indian mathematician, pretty damn advanced mathematics, right? I don't know if you guys can see. But why I say this is to say this. I go through physics and I study how to, just be a general astronomer, right? Then I go into the PhD program and they say, hey, work on this thesis, and your thesis is going to be in regards to spiral dynamics of galaxies. What you will need for that now is not to read any more quantum mechanics, not to read any more electrodynamics. You've read enough. You took 3 courses on electrodynamics. You took 3 courses on quantum mechanics. You took, or let's say 3 years, 3 years of electromagnetics, 3 years of thermodynamics, 3 years of so on and so forth. Each of them, whatever, how long classes, right? You're good now, right? I shouldn't even say 2 years, right? But you're good now, right? Possibly even 1 year, I don't know. But you're good. Now that you're in grad school, you leave that stuff alone. If you're doing mathematical astrophysics, you pick up a mathematical astrophysics book. Okay? That's it. And you put the theory, you go to a freaking page, right, where he's talking about, it's probably this one right here, the Rayleigh-Taylor instability. It's probably not, but still, where he's talking about that, and you apply it to the observations you're making on the spiral galaxies out there, right? You're not reading the whole book, okay? You don't have to. You're not like you're not reading electrodynamics anymore. You don't have to. What you're doing is you are only reading this to assist you in expanding upon the knowledge or expanding upon the astrophysics that you are working on. And then when you move forward, you're going to continue to do you're only going to research what you need to know. What happens with us is that and I see it in the conscious community all the time. Hey, can somebody recommend me a book on West African kingdoms? You know, hey, can somebody recommend me a book on the East African resistance to in Zanzibar? Like, unless you're gonna unless you are going to fight some Arabs in Zanzibar somehow, what are you reading about it for? I mean, you should know about it on a general level, right? Or even like with regard to Haiti, you should know about the Haitian Revolution on a general level. But unless you are going to fight the French, and you need to know some strategy for it, then do not you have there's a limit to how much knowledge you're going to absorb. And then when you are going to go fight the French, you go to the page where it describes how they're fighting the French. And see, my issue is this: I don't have anybody out there have Irritated Genie. Let me know. I don't have my copy on me, right? But I'm going to talk about later on. There's a question about the Haitian Revolution and the Haitian government, and I'm going to talk about that. And realistically, all I would tell you if I had the book was look at this page number. That's it. I would not tell you, hey, go read the whole book, right? I wouldn't tell you that. I tell you guys, there's 12 books that you should read, and obviously, if you want to be a little more specific, you can read a few more. But beyond that, or even like if you're talking about just history, you read When We Ruled. If you want to go into a particular historical narrative, look inside of his footnotes, read that, and then you're good. If you're spending 20 years reading books, of course you're going to be frustrated because you've wasted your life. You know, if I were to be in a physics program and all I did was just read different physical, all of physics all over, I would have wasted my life. The whole point of me being in that physics program or having a physics PhD was to expand on the field, to put the field into action, to put the field into work. That's the difference between us and them, right? They are saying, hey, look, we are developing professionals to work. And we're saying we're encouraging people to self-develop to, to talk, to think, to talk. And that's the problem. I've neglected to greet the people who are greeting us. So let's see. Emmanuel Briggs is here. He says, happy Sunday. Salute to everyone. And then Afro Jam decided, I'm not going to greet anybody, but say specification. And that's cool. I don't mind greetings. When I was in Tanzania, I thought the greetings were like the most annoying thing. You call somebody and they're like, Habari Yako. And you're like, okay, like I want like Habari Yako. And they're really like pissed. One person hung up on me because I'm just like, shut the fuck up. I'm not answering you. Anyway, but me, I don't care. I like when people don't greet me. Because I don't do that. But yeah, so let's go to this person's question just more particularly. It's like, what ways do we build? And it's like, look, you improve your life, health, and wealth. Okay? And then you find a group, find a collective in real life, not on the internet, in real life. Okay? Like in your community, in your neighborhood, in your vicinity. Somebody you can walk to and talk to, right? You find them and you do that. Just like how I got a farm. I wasn't going to get a farm by talking about it online. I got a farm by meeting somebody who was like, hey, I'm a business person. I said, what business you doing? They're like, hey, farming. And I was like, oh, okay. How much is land? They're like, how much is the farm? They're like, oh, this is how much it costs. And I was like, got it. That's how you do it. Now the farm's out in the middle of nowhere, but I wouldn't recommend that particular method. But what I'm saying is that if you want to get a freaking farm, you have to go. Like, if you want property, you have to go to the buyers. If you want to build a steel factory, right? You need steel workers and you need a fucking steel factory, right? You need somebody who's selling a steel factory. Or you need somebody who can build a steel factory, but you need actual people. You don't need the internet. You could tell everybody on the internet, hey, I want to get a steel factory. You're not getting a steel factory. They're going to say, man, that's a good idea. It's a good idea you want a steel factory.
Well, duh. That's why I said it. I might be cursing a little bit too much. I'm sorry, fam. I'm sorry, fam. Let's see if I think I might have pressed something by mistake. Emmanuel says direct action. We got 8 concurrent views. We doubled. Let's keep doubling. Lero says people become far too invested and truly attracted by these online communities. Yeah, like online. The internet is for, like, you should use the internet to make money if you can. You know what I mean? The internet should be used to make money. That's why I never really hate on those grifters. Particularly Yvette and whatever, because they're doing, like, they're saying, hey, this is how I'm going to feed my family. I don't think it's a good way to feed your family, right? But if it's better than going on the internet and not feeding your family. It's better than putting a lot of time into something that's not feeding your family. I would rather you were saying, hey, I'm going to feed my family in some way. Again, you can do the improvements in life, health, and wealth on the internet. You can, right? But that's those people, those grifters, what they're doing is they're improving their wealth. They're improving their wealth. Now, if you're like, hey, why don't you try to improve us as a people? You're not a digital people. You're not artificial intelligence. You're not pixels. You're not a digital people. So nobody's gonna help you digitally. You get what I'm saying? Now, obviously, I'm generalizing. Some people are. I got some, critics who will be like, well, there's some ways to help people digitally. Of course there are, right? But generally speaking, you going online and arguing with left and right, is not going to improve anybody's life, right? Mr. Frog, I never heard Mr. Frog. He says, do you think that the concept of race is biological or cultural? The concept of race. The concept of race would be, like, if you say a concept is always going to be cultural, right? Now, if you're saying whether there are racial groups on a biological level, of course there are. There's this, like I said, when I was, I said this to somebody today, when I was in college, I read this paper called Clusters and Clines. Like, that was like the most advanced science on race back in the day. And the idea was that the phenotypes of a people are determined by their cline, and they are clustered together. So all of us are in sort of biogenetic clusters and biogenetic clines, and those biogenetic clusters and clines impacts our phenotype. It impacts the probability of our phenotype, right? The reality is that our phenotype is determined by random genetic mutations, and those mutations are then selected depending on what cline we're in. So you see my hair is a little, 4C, kinky, so on and so forth, not necessarily straight, but what happens is that if you are, this hair represents a clinal group or a climate that was moist. So this hair is better in moist environments, whereas a straighter hair is better in dry environments, right? The same with flat features, like you might find in like Eskimos and so on and so forth. How that relates to like wind and all those sort of things. So it's a really interesting scientific description. And so of course, race is obviously a biological thing in the sense that humans are biological beings who differ depending on the cline, just the same as plants and other animals do. Like the way how a lion looks, in this part of the world versus the way a lion looks in that part of the world, or the way a bird looks in one part of the world versus the way a bird looks in another part of the world. But that's pretty much it. Realistically, you could say that we as African people are a template for for human beings, and that template then has divergent groups that were differentiated in different clines and clusters, and then you could also say that there's a sort of biogenetic what would you call it? Like there's a lot of biogenetic factors as well. You could go into the reality that some quote unquote human groups are in fact mixed with other hominids. Like namely you could say Some of them might be descended from Neanderthals in some part. Other ways you can look into, what the cold environment might do to a person, to a people on a psychological level. Like, for example, if you had nightmares any of these days, you might know that nightmares, like if you're cold while you're sleeping, you might have nightmares. And so what that can mean for a people group who are living in a cold environment versus a people group who are not living in a cold environment, and what kind of like paranoia could develop from that. There's a lot to factor in. But again, whether you're saying the concept, every concept is going to be cultural. However, do we have biological differences? Yeah, the lion has a biological difference between, the lion of one region has a biological difference in another lion of another region, and that is technically race. Or, if I'm not mistaken, the lion and the tiger, also have different biological makeups. And I'm not sure if that's species or race. I haven't looked into it recently. But yeah, those are real concepts. Those are not those are real biological concepts. They're not necessarily cultural. And of course, the lion and the tiger both have different cultural behaviors if you want to extend to them that kind of culturality. All right, so Lero says, we can ask you questions in the chat, fam, or you already got them lined up? Yeah, you can ask me anything. You can ask me anything. You can ask me anything anywhere. I just had some questions lined up in case nobody was going to ask me anything. Afrojam says, in other life forms have subspecies or in plants strains. For political reasons, their divisions have abandoned for humans. These divisions, look, recently it's been abandoned for humans, partially because of like political and cultural reasons. And realistically, it was a concept that was abused by Europeans in order to justify abusing our African ancestors. So, a part of one thing that America, particularly, which is a very influential Western state, it's actually the largest European state, right? One thing that is trying to pivot away from in order to garner more solidarity in the international community was being outright racist, or not racist per se, but being outright expressing those kind of racial points of view. And so, but realistically, humans are divided. Mr. Frog says, so besides phenotype, is there anything that separates us biologically from other races? And how do these things impact us? Well, phenotype, it's really difficult to say one way or the other because a lot of what passes in the African community is going to be pseudoscience. So you can't tell what is pseudoscience. Like, in retrospect, I've heard a lot of things, but as I grow older, I don't know what is pseudoscience versus what is science, right? So I've heard about there are like melanin centers at the base of our neck. I heard this from Lila Africa, that we have more melanin centers here and all that kind of stuff. Is it true? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, and that I'm not that kind of scientist. You know what I mean? I'm not that kind of scientist. It's possible that you do have, you're very different internally. It's very likely that you're very different internally. Everybody kind of knows that you are physiologically different from other people. So it's not like, now we're not physiologically uniform. Okay. We're not physiologically uniform. We're not even culturally uniform, as an African people. But what separates us biologically, even individuals are separated biologically. Everybody is separated biologically. We are separated into clusters, and those clusters, I think they're meaningful. I think that, they're meaningful insofar as we have to not lose sight of what's at stake. So I was on Tanzan's program other day, and this brother was talking about black people, this, so on and so forth. But we have to remember, this is something that is inside the Carlos A. Cooks reader. So I want you guys to get the Carlos A. Cooks reader. And in fact, I think I'm going to just pull up this passage. Let's see if I have it to show. Give me 2 seconds. I want to see if of course I don't have it in this folder. Of course, I don't have it in this folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search my computer really quickly. There's this really important passage that I think, actually, it's possible that I have it in the Book of Power. So let me see if I actually have it in the Book of Power. Let's see if I, because I think that some things I put in. Yeah, okay. Let me see. Made it possible for the white. Yeah, okay, good. So this is one of the more important. Now you could obviously get the the Carlos A. Cook's reader. That one's free. You could just ask me for it. But I want you guys to turn to, this is the Book of Power, right? Let's see what page this is. This is page 98. What do we offer as solutions? Which is, like pretty on point. So this is what page 98 looks like. Ah, shit. Okay. That's embarrassing, right? Let me just make the camera bigger also. I realize so page 98 right here. You guys see? See how big this book is? I'm telling you. All right. So you get this book, you go to page 98, and then here you have it. He says, look, the moral here is so simple that even a fool should be able to learn a lesson from it. Racial unity reflects the margin of difference. Actually, let me even just go to the beginning. He says, we are not arguing the moral right of his conduct. It's actually so short. Let's just, and what I looked up for this was Australia. Oh, you guys can't see the top, but racial identity is the magnet fusing, welding people of the same physiognomy together for mutual advancement. Hence, we have white supremacy based not, and it's, well, here's the funny thing. So I always say there's no white supremacy, and then I have quotes of Marcus Garvey and Carlos Cook using the same word, right? Because I actually think that the adaptation that we use is from Neely Fuller, but the way how they use it is different from how Neely Fuller uses it. But anyway, let's see. Racial identity is the magnet fusing and welding people of the same physiognomy together for mutual advancement. Okay? Hence, we have white supremacy based not on merits of the individual white man, but rather on the collective strength of the organized white world. Right? This is what he says white supremacy is. It's not the merits of the individual white man, but the collective strength of the organized white world. The white world is organized and strong, right? Around this principle, the white man plundered the world and subjugated and exploited black, brown, and yellow people for over 300 years. The primary cause of inciting this unity was the rallying call of white supremacy, right? He primarily said, hey, you know what? We are a superior being, right? We are not arguing the moral right of his conduct, nor are we extolling his feats. All we are establishing is what the record shows. We have the colored world numbering 2,500,000,000 people. That was the population back then. That becomes an easy prey for the white race, which is outnumbered 5-1. The margin of difference that there being that they, the white man, were organized and the non-white races were disorganized against themselves, right? The moral here is so simple that even a fool should be able to learn a lesson from it. Racial unity reflects the margin of difference that has made it possible for the white man to wipe out the Australian Bushman and the Amerindian, plus 2/3 of Africa and all of South America. This has been the sorrow of the millions of barefoot, naked, and hungry people. Now, I mean, obviously, we could keep reading. Those of you who, later on, if you're watching this, you're reading this in the future, you could pause, or you could just get the download. This is Carlos A. Cook's reader. I give that out for free. But the important part is this. This white man first came and wiped out one continent. No, he wiped out, I believe, America first, right? And then Australia, right? Maybe he acted out later. Then all of South America, okay? And he was on his way, 2/3 on his way to wiping out our people, the black race. That's really what we have to bear in mind. Even when we're saying, hey, what is the merit? What is the, should we be organizing as a race? Should we, so on and so forth? You have to realize that there was a population that was invading the planet, okay? That was invading other people and wiping them off of the face of the planet. To where today we talk about South America not for like Native American populations, right? But we're talking about South America in the sense of, oh, there's a white overclass and a black underclass or something. We're going to talk about that later, right? That's what we talk about now.
because he wiped out the population there. The same when we talk about Australia, we're talking about this prison colony, and we're like, they're fucking criminals and so on and so forth. There was a whole race there, like a whole race of people. Technically, because I can say this, for instance, technically there are considered three major groups of major races. Today, there are considered three major races. In the time of Blumenbach, the person who, the cultural concept of race, in the time of Blumenbach, there were 5 races. If you guys remember when we ruled from, not when we ruled, You Must Learn by KRS-One, he talks about them, right? But I decided to read Blumenbach after that, I believe. And the whole thing with that is that he had 5 groups. He said, the Negroid, the Caucasoid, and the Mongoloid, right? The 3 that we all know, the Asian, the African, the European, the Asian. But then he also had the Australoid and the Americoid or something like that, whatever. The Americans are wiped out. The Australians are wiped out. And the Africans were going to be wiped out too. But of course, we put up our resistance a little better than the other groups did. Right? But this is where it comes to. It says, is there anything that separates us, so on and so forth? It's like you could go down to some biological level and be like, we're not too different from the lion. We're not too different from the tiger. Sure. On some, we can say we're both earthlings or something. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. You could argue that. You could say, hey, we're both earthlings. We both have 1 billion years of genetic evolution building up to our current moment. Sure, we have some divergence down the past, but, there's something along those lines. That said, if one is hunting the other, right, you have to organize your collective defense. And if you don't, you're going to be wiped out because they are wiping out populations. It's not a game. They are wiping out populations. I see that we have, Bill is asking about African language. We can talk about there are 10,000, you could say there's 3,000 languages in Africa, right? There were probably 10,000. Probably 20,000. They were wiped out. A lot of people were wiped out. How many languages were there among the Native Americans? How many languages were there among the Australians? They said the largest city in the world was in South America. Or was in Haiti, I think. Right? The largest city in the world was in Haiti before Columbus showed up. You understand? Where is it now? Like, as we talk about Haiti today, like, where is the indigenous city that used to thrive over there? It's non-existent. No history of it. No people from it. A lot of African groups are the same. So I want people to really recognize that when we're talking about race, you want to remember not just that. Again, like, you don't want to focus on, you don't want to focus on the negativity per se. You don't want to focus on the outsider per se. But you have to realize as well that that realistically, again, you are in competition. You are in competition. Okay? There were some human beings, if you want to call them that wanted, like, they wanted the land of America, they wanted the land of Africa, or they wanted the labor of Africa, or they wanted the labor of America. They want something, and they collectively group together to get it. And so it only becomes a question of you as an individual. What do you want? And who will you collectively organize with to get it? And this is one of the most important questions as we move forward, because remember, you want the overclass to be within your racial group. And I do think that there is a biological, cultural, like there's some link between culture and biology. Obviously, it's not universal. Obviously, it's not perfect. But I do believe that there is a link between culture and biology. If not, then at least you remember that there's an ecological effect on psychology.
So as to say that if you are in a cold environment, you might have that sort of paranoia, you might have those sort of nightmares, you might have that sort of vicious violence. And then, of course, if you're in a situation of scarcity versus a situation of abundance, you may behave differently, among other things. But there might also be a biological factor, just to keep that in mind. All right. Forecasts, and of course, not just the biological factor. There might also be the, if you are in fact, what is the impact of the Neanderthal neurology on Europeans, and Asians? Like, what is the impact of the Neanderthal neurology on them? Like, these are really important questions that, if you look into the Book of Power, you'll see that we ask, we say, hey, we need some scientists to figure this out. We actually should do real life studies, because it could be red herrings, it could be nothing, or it could be that, hey, you know what, having a certain genotype does impact your neurology. It does impact your neurology in such a way that you may have, you may be more inclined towards, let's say violence, or just a different solution than somebody who doesn't have that same neurology, right? Anyway, so Forecast says, what's up? So what up, Forecast? Afrojam says, subspecies have no clear divisions other than geographic isolation. Yeah, exactly. I mean, remember that, oh, sorry, so I think I skipped some stuff. Afrojam says, another life forms have subspecies of plant strains for political reasons. Yeah, so subspecies have no clear divisions other than a geographic isolation. Exactly, but that's the thing about the world, is that there was some real geographic isolation. Like human beings did go through a real geographic isolation, whether it be Asia, whether it be Europe, whether it be Africa. There was a real geographic isolation, or even whether it be America. And that said, you could say that these are clearly different subspecies. Now, granted, there are zones of confluence, as they would say. There are clusters, or there are, it is not there's a gradient between one group and another group, but for the most part, or not for the most part, but generally speaking, you would find geographic isolation. And so you could then study them as separate entities, or separate groups, separate clusters, separate subspecies, separate races. You could then study them in that sense, like from a scientific view, it would be the same as if you were to do that to dogs. If you were to say, hey, you know what, the poodle and the pit bull, they grew up in isolated environments, and ergo we can study the pit bull and make conclusions on the pit bull exclusive to the poodle, right? So Kofi says, LOL. Lero says, as a Black African nationalist, how important is identity to objective? Is blackness or Africanity progressive in regards to a nationalist endeavor? Yes, of course. How important is identity to objective? How important is identity to objective? Is blackness or Africanity progressive in regards to a nationalist endeavor? Yeah, I mean, what we have to realize is this. Like I said, we belong to different people groups. We belong to different people groups, and however, again, because the science isn't clear, right? And because the other people groups are organizing along racial boundaries, you cannot fumble. You get what I'm saying? You can't fumble. It's like if you, once somebody, unfortunately it goes like this. Once somebody else shows you that they're on a different team, you have to form your own fucking team. You get what I'm saying? Like you don't have a choice anymore. It's different if nobody else had a team. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like when the Europeans did it. I'm not saying that Europeans even did it though. It really goes back to, and I don't know how true this is. Like I said, there's a lot of science and pseudoscience. There's a lot of history and pseudo history. So there's this book called but this white boy writes it. And this white boy is like, back in the ancient world, right? The blacks would go into Europe and just kill them. And just attack them. Just attack Europeans. I think it's true. I think it's true because what this how the white man is phrasing it is he's saying that black people they had the shield, like they had dragons on their armor, right? And to this day Europeans fear dragons. And to me it's a little bit of a puzzle. You know, it's a little bit of a puzzle in the sense of, well, why do Europeans fear dragons? And if you think about what dragons are in the European lore, they're these intelligent beings who destroy cities, I guess, and collect treasures, right? And you know, hoard them in caves and so on and so forth. And then when you go back and you see that there is like another discussion on, you know, ancient Africa, and they would say, I think it's like a Mandinka or something like that. But there's this ancient African, there's this African group that had dragons on their armor, right? It's like, yeah, you put two and two together, you know? Now, again, what's the veracity? Was it pseudo-history? Is it pseudoscience? Who knows? But it's possible that if black people were going into Europe to kill Europeans, or possibly to kill Neanderthals, right? Why were they doing that? Why were our ancestors doing that? You get what I'm saying? And then if you really study who these Europeans are on a fundamental level, look at this people group called the corded ware culture. Okay, so there's this culture called the corded ware culture, and it's different from essentially the Europeans that we know. I mean, the Europeans that might have been versus the Europeans that are now are a different group. You get what I'm saying? So I'll show you guys corded ware culture. So the corded ware culture, this is a different group. So they're saying, look, circa 3000 BC to circa 2350 BC, and this is actually a pretty large group, if you guys could see, covering northern, central, eastern Europe. There was a different culture that kind of came into to Europe, and they're called the battle axe culture, right? And essentially, they're just more violent. Like, more violent, much more killers, so on and so forth. Right here it says, presumed to be the Proto-Indo-Europeans, based on the possession of horses and wheeled vehicles and rapid, intrusive. This is a different... So there might have been a population there that was pretty decent, you know, like an ancient black, whatever. These people slaughtered them. They were killers to like they were the battle axe culture. Yeah, and then this is what many Europeans are descended from, right? Like essentially like an internal group that kind of just spread and did some damage. Whereas, ew, what the freak? Look at this. World's first gay caveman. That's fucking weird. Or was a man with different sexual orientation. What the fuck? Homosexual and transsexual. All right, you guys get it. Anyway, but I mean, obviously, you know, you can't trust everything you read on Wikipedia, but even with the citations, but still, why do I say this? This is a different culture that just spread. Just the same as if you look up Bantu culture, you'll see the same kind of mapping where some group of agricultural farmers, you know, spread all over and did some positive works in Africa. And a lot of us are descended from them. A lot of Europeans are descended from these people, the battle axe, the corded ware. That's a different, like this is really important to know that this is an expansionist group that is very violent, very killing. You kind of probably could see homophilic, among other things. It's I mean, I didn't know that before looking at this thing, but you know, the haplogroup and so on and so forth. You can see that there is something here. Okay, you could see that there is something here for our consideration. But again, I won't really go too much in that because I didn't really prepare for that. I didn't really read that, but I want you guys to recognize that in regards to, I guess, this question as far as identity. You know, you have to be like you have to shift. You have to shift. These people in the ancient world, there's some rumor. Like I said, this is one source that's kind of pseudoscience. So I'm not really, so I would take it with a grain of salt. If I remember the name of it, I could probably show you guys. But the dude is like, hey, you know what? There was this ancient hatred of black people in Europe. There was this ancient hatred of black people in Europe. Ironically, it is the Noel Noel is one of the references, and Noel, if you guys know, is like the winter festival. It's a large. I wish I knew the name of the book so I could just show you guys. I think it's like Anaclippus or something like that. I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look it up really quickly though. Let me see. What screen am I showing? Okay, I'll have to look it up really quickly. But it's a really interesting. I was supposed to read it. The Initiates. That's what it's called. The Great Initiates. Yeah, I was supposed to read it, but and I think I was gonna read it for the podcast, but then I just didn't. Here, Great Initiates. What I'm gonna do is over here. So I'm gonna show you guys some of it if I can. Let's see. We go to the reading model. We're going to zoom out at it, and then we're gonna look up. Let's see if it can show us Noel. Okay, so the idea is that there's this guy named Ram. So Ram is, and now Ram, it's really interesting because part of what this person is basing it off of, Rama, is the ancient Indian belief. And so essentially, for those of you who might not know, is that the ancient Indians also talk about a great race war and how the whites came and invaded and destroyed the, so on and so forth, destroyed the African rulership, like African, basically black power in the ancient world. And it's the Aryans that do that. And so Ram is the one who does it, and if you pay attention, Ram is so like this whole race war thing is like really an ancient concept, you know. And if you don't embrace it where other people are embracing it, you fucked up. Like, no disrespect, but you like fucked up. Let's see, the Testament of the Great Ancestor. So he's talking about Rama. For himself, this whole thing is about Rama, Exodus and conquest. But I want to see if I could find it because essentially it's interesting because Ram consecrated his memory by instituting Noel, Christmas, or the new salvation, which is set in the beginning of the year and called the night mother of the new son of the great revelation, so on and so forth. As for the mysterious being, Ram has been the vision and has shown him the mistletoe. He was called, according to the esoteric tradition of the whites of Europe, whatever, which means the hope of healing and so on and so forth. So basically, this guy Ram, who, according to this white guy, deliberately, not just according to this white guy, but according to the Indian faith, the Hindu faith, right? The Hindu epic of Ramayana, what Ram does is he unites the white race against the black race. And now today we celebrate it with Christmas and mistletoes and winter festivities. So I don't know if because I don't have enough time because I told my son's mother to bring him back, at some point. So, and I don't want him shucking and jiving while I'm whatever. But let's see. It says Africa is the mother of the black race, which the Greeks call Ethiopia. But pretty much it's a really ancient belief, so I would not abandon it for anything. Like, you have to understand why your ancestors might have established something, or why your ancestors might have of a thing. You see, he calls the Nubians and the Abyssinians the superior Negro. He's such a fucking guy. But anyway, so I mean, obviously, everything you read that's white, you got to read with a grain of salt. And like I said, you read it just for the purpose of whatever purpose you're seeking. You know, I wanted to see the dragon. I think he mentions the dragons over here because it could be another book. It's a really interesting. Wait, let me see if you guys can see the screen. Actually, I didn't know. Yeah, probably. It's really small, but you probably can see it. I don't see it, but at some point he mentions the dragon as well as how white people adopted a different writing direction. So essentially, everybody used to write left to right, and now they write right to left, and now they write left to right. As protest to black people, and then black people change their gods to white. Change their devils to white in the way how these whites change their devils to black, kind of thing. So it's just this ancient. Now it was roused by the attacks on the black race, which was beginning to invade in the south of Europe. The white race, however, was only in an infancy, though a violent and foolish one, had other and more sanguinary crises to pass through. Now was rise on the attacks of the black race. So essentially, like this guy Ram, and this is what I guess the ancient Indians are recording, is saying, you know what? Instead of us as white people fighting and being barbaric with each other, being the corded ware people, instead of us doing that, let's unite against the black race and take what they have. And they've been doing that. So again, you do not want to, you do not want to be left out in the dark. Because even if this is not true, right? The reality is that there is a reality as to what's going on the planet, you know? As to what's going on the planet. There's a pan-European multinationalism. Okay, there is a pan-European multinationalism. I can't find the dragon thing, so I'm not even gonna sweat it. And the search function is not working here. But it was a really interesting conversation. Maybe I'll do it another time. All right, so let's go back to the comments. So as far as like how important is identity, of course. Like, yeah, you have to, because if you don't have the identity, like, you're screwed over. Mr. Frog says, I gotta go a little quicker, right? Mr. Frog says, wait, where are we? Oh, no. Kofi says phenotype is based on genes, so that shows the difference. Yeah, so the genotype is different as well, right? Lero says, I also want to hear your response to one of the STB prompts from last night. How important is state seizure in enacting true change? Does the conscious community lack this understanding? State seizure is the most important. State seizure is the only thing. You know, like if you want to enact true change, state seizure is the only thing. There's nothing, like, what else is there if you want to impact change? Forecast Radio says black people are supposed to have denser bones with a different bone structure. Yeah, we like, there's a lot of things that we have. Like, I as far as, like, I want to say intelligence wise and wisdom wise, I think there's a lot of differences as well. You know, Bill says we have Pan-African languages like Swahili, but many are not written in African scripts. How do we solve this issue? Meta Nature, do you know of any attempts to solve this issue? Again, it's like what the sister was just saying. You have to have state seizure. You know, the only reason why there's so much English speaking and English writing in Africa is because, one, the Europeans seized the state, and two, because the Africans seized it back and continued their tradition. You know, if you have to teach people to write in whatever language you want them to write. Okay, that's it. You have to teach them. And the thing is that as long as we are not in the teaching position, it will not be done. It won't be done because it's not even practical to do it. If you are not in a position of power or a position of influence, it's not impractical for people to please you. You know, it's not practical for people to do things for you. If I say, hey, everybody, give me $10, right? It means nothing. You know, somebody might say, okay, here's $10, right? But most people are going to say, why the fuck do I need to make me? You know what I mean? However, if I say, hey, look, the only way you're going to get out of this city is you pay me $10 to drive you out of the city, right? You're going to pay the $10 if you want to get out of the city. You know, because I'm in a position to essentially a position of trade with you, where you want something that I have, and I want something that you have. Right now, if I tell you, hey, give me $10, I might want it. You know, I don't mind $10. You can hit me up, Cash App. You already know, right? It's not on the bottom of the screen, but it should be, right? But I might want it. But what do you want? You get it. You already got what you want. If you tune into the podcast, you're already getting what you want without paying. So why should you pay? You understand? Now, and of course, like, if you don't want it, even if it were something to pay for, then you wouldn't pay for it. But again, like, if it comes to, you know, oh, I want, you know, if you, like, for instance, you want one of my books, you pay for it. You know, that's it. Kofi says the inheritance. Iceman Inheritance talks about that. Yeah, that's a white boy. But yeah, he probably, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I care if he's a white boy. Forecast says, facts, we break everything else down and study it one by one. Afro Jam says, from the East. So, you know, my problem is that I couldn't really think. Right? So Bill says the Yam Nyaya, fathers of Cote d'Ivoire, are noted as being the most violent genocidal people in history. There you go, Bill bringing the history. This is who they come from. I always saw parallels between the expansionist wagon culture of the Yam Nyaya and the white expansionist wagon culture in America and the rest of their colonies. Let's not forget the Asiatics who Kemet was at war with since the beginning of time. Indo-European Yamanya descendant people. Right? Exactly. You know, remember, these are people from 3000 to 2500 BC. And it's really important when you look at that timeline. You know, I want people to look at that timeline, 3000 to 2500 BC, right? This is around the timeline. This is around the time of the European gene, I believe. I feel like, wait, no. Yeah, maybe. I think it might have been 3000. Like, I think it might be 3000 BC. Like, it's not 20,000. It's either 3000 BC or 20,000 BC. But, I mean, I'll have to look it up. Oh, sorry, I wasn't showing the screen. I'll have to look it up, but you see 3,000 to 2,500, 23 BC. That is, like, I can't remember. It could have been 20,000 years. You know, it could be 10,000 years. Oh, I think, actually, no, I think it was 8,000 years ago, which is probably like 5,000 BC. But, I'll have to, or 6,000 BC. I'll have to look it up. But how old is the white gene? The white genome, like the white skin genome? Yeah, starting 8,000 years ago, right? So I guess it's much before, but the point is that it's very like this is one of the big questions. This is one of the big questions of history, right? One of the big questions of history is this. If white gene is oh, look at this right here. See if I can says it right here. The study revealed that a massive migration of Yamnaya herders, so you know, Bill just talked about that, from the steppes of north of the Black Sea may have brought Indo-European languages to Europe about 4,500 BC, right? And pay attention how this white color, this white gene, look at it. They're saying it probably showed up in, like here's the thing about genes. I want people to realize this. Genes form in one individual. Okay, genes form in one individual. That transformation, that in order for white skin to happen, it happens in one individual, just one. Okay? Now, granted, it could happen in more than one individual, but the point is that it happens in one individual over 10,000 years or something. You know, like just one person just has this white gene. It is the predominant gene in Europe today. How? So what is in this fucking gene, right? Now, obviously, you know, if you listen to the brother who writes When We Ruled, Robin Walker, he'll tell you, hey, you know, and I think I explained this in the Book of Power too. But they'll say, look, you're less prone to rickets and like, you know, whatever if you have this gene, like you can move around in the winter, that kind of thing, right? So let's see if I have it right here. I think. So I think I made Robin Walker. Yeah. So I copied his speech into the Book of Power. So the Book of Power has a lot of things, right? So you search rickets. This is going to be page 164. Those of you who have the book at home. He says, look, so if you're black skinned, this is Robin Walker talking. He's like, albinism exists in every population. And again, I don't go to the albinism idea, but, you know, this is what the white gene can do, right? Because albinism exists in every population. It's a statistical regularity. It's a very small thing, but it happens. In an ice age, there's reduced exposure to sunlight, so people are more likely to cover themselves with animal skins. If there's reduced exposure to sunlight, then the amount of sunlight available to touch the skin to result in vitamin D and proper bone formation is reduced during an ice age. So if you're black-skinned, you will tend to have a short life expectancy where you're likely to end up dying from rickets. Rickets is a soft bone, soft bones, and there are examples of early skeletons that were dug up in Europe where you can see the soft bones. For those people who are albinos, therefore, having little or no melanin in their skin, the little exposure to sunlight would be going to go through the skin, give them vitamin D, and the result would be proper bone formation. So during an ice age, you'll end up with people with black skin having a short life expectancy, producing a small number of children, whereas the very few albinos among them would have a normal life expectancy, producing more children. Over time, some mathematicians calculate 16,000 years, you'll end up with albinos going from a tiny, tiny minority to a majority during that period. Now, the thing is this, Europeans are not albinos, right? Although they look like albino natives, Indians, sorry. albino Indians, but they're not albinos. So what you have then, and here's another thing too. It's like this. Mathematically, everything all probabilistically, you could have 16,000 years so that this one gene can then become so on and so forth. This gene does not become the majority in 16,000 years. It showed up 8,000 years ago. Okay? It shows up 8,000 years ago. Europeans are already, by the time of this Yamanya, whatever, in 2,000 years, they're expanding and taking over every population around there. So it's possible that 5,000 years ago, most of Europe was brown skin. It's possible. But again, if it's cold or what have you, and again, this wasn't even during the Ice Age. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't even during the Ice Age. And the thing is, some people even say that some of the Neanderthals might have been brown skinned. But anyway, but the point being this, that you have these people who are now, let's say this is even remotely true, that they're a little bit stronger. They don't have soft bones because they're white skinned. Whatever. They go on to slaughter the black population and hate them. You understand? Like we have to keep that in mind as we move forward. I think I might have rushed past a lot of things, because I thought it was in more comments. But anyway, Afrojam says there were whites who were entering Europe as recent as the Roman Empire. They came from the east. Okay. Let's not forget the Asia. Okay. A mutation that becomes selected by a group. The Sami are a people who lived in Europe before Europeans. There are few left in northern Scandinavia. Nobel War Prize says, are these people the same as the Sea People invaders of the Bronze Age? And they are somewhat Siberian looking. Are they the same as the Sea People? It's possible. You know what I mean? I guess you could say that I think there's a larger subgroup called the Aryans, and I think that's probably it. But again, it's not even, I couldn't say, because again, I don't, when I studied history, I cannot say that, I did a cursory study, and then I didn't really delve deep into the different groups, because again, it has its purpose, but, there's so many directions to go. It's kind of like when I showed you guys the astrophysics textbook. There are so many directions to go in astrophysics that you can't expect somebody to know every direction, because I know, because usually I would say, if this weren't an AMA, I'd just be I don't know. But because it's Ask Me Anything, I have to respond to this. So I couldn't tell you if they're the same people from the Sea People. So anyway, I don't see any other questions. I don't know if I'll go back. I don't know if I answered Bill or Lero's question well enough. So you guys let me know if I answered it well enough. If not, I can go back to it. But I'll just go to the next question in the meantime. So I think, okay, so damn. I actually only had so many questions prepared. So we'll go to what Brother Funky wrote me on Twitter when I said I was going to do an Ask Me Anything. So make sure you guys check out Brother Funky. Hold on a second. All right, sure. Let's see if this works. All right, so let's go to internet. So, Brother Funky says, so I say, look, guys, I'm going to do another Ask Me Anything. I wrote this on January 27th. Anyone have any questions for the Pan-African Multi-Nationalist who took his only son thousands of kilometers away from America, Tanzania, for 3 months now, bought a farm, stole hearts, and had a lot of fun. Anyway, so how much U.S. dollars does it cost per month for a family of 4 to live decently in Tanzania? And of course, I then say depends on if you're macking or not. But and he's like, no, dude, I'm trying to build a family. It's interesting because what's interesting about Brother Funky is that he's like, look, can $2,000 a month do it? It's like, damn right, $2,000 a month can do it. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? You can do a lot of, like, what? That's like about 4 million a month, 4 million shillings a month in Tanzania, which is just about, I would say you could divide by 10 the number, and that would be like your American equivalent. So I would say multiply by 200, and that's your American equivalent for your money. Kind of. No, I wouldn't say that. That's a little too extreme. Oh, no, sorry. Let me see. Your $1... No, multiply by 2. Yeah, multiply by 2, and that's like your American equivalent. Yeah, like so your $1 is like $2, and your well, all right, no, you couldn't do a direct multiplication, but what I would say is that yeah, you could definitely live pretty cheaply because one, you could buy this property and just own it, just own it. Like you could just own a property and you could do it for pretty cheap. And so I kind of outlined to Brother Funky, the Funky brother, how to do that. Only issue is I said you have to learn Swahili. Like you should know Swahili. So that's like the real downside. I would recommend Ghana if you're not willing to learn Swahili. But there's this thing called Gigi. And Gigi is like a platform. I'm going to see if I can switch the screen to it. So let me just see if I can switch it for a second. Gigi would be the platform you would go to in order to. Okay, so there's Gigi for there's Gigi for Tanzania, for Nigeria as well as Tanzania. But here's the website. So basically, it's like for those of you in America, you know Craigslist. So basically, it's that. It's basically a Craigslist. So you could just see, house, land for sale, commercial property for sale, that kind of stuff, and it's all pretty damn cheap. Now you have to know which city you want to be in, right? So this is this right here is land for sale, land plots for sale. Obviously, there's a lot of Swahili, and again, like I said, you'd have to be able to speak to people, in that kind of way. I didn't usually have it in Swahili, like it wasn't usually too much Swahili, but I guess these advertisers are advertising in Swahili, right? But here's like house for sale, or even this is for sale. So 45 million is about, I want to say $20,000 or something like that. You know what I mean? So this is a 4-bedroom house for $20,000 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure because I didn't do the math. Yes, it's about $20,000. So you could get a 4-bedroom house wherever for $20,000. This one's going to be $30,000. This one's going to be $16,000. A furnished 3-bedroom house, and this is for sale, right? Now, if you're renting, and I realize because the thing is that you can't technically own in Tanzania, so I wouldn't even think. This is 1 million shillings a month, which is like about $600 a month, for a furnished 1-bedroom apartment in Mikocheni. And of course, you could obviously list by, like if you want to be frugal, you can list by, instead of like lowest price first. And yeah, so you, like obviously you'd be you'd have to know the areas, but basically you kind of don't want to, like you'd want to know the areas. Oh, this was in Bezzy Beach. So 50,000 a month. 50,000 a month is like, I want to say like $25 a month. Well, yeah, you could rent in Kinondoni. I don't know if Kinondoni is that convenient. And so Dalali basically means a agent. So what you would do, because some of them kind of just list things, what you would do is you would call them up and they would say, what's your price? Like, what are you willing to pay? And then they would try to find something within that sort of parameter. They'll try to find something more expensive, honestly. But, pretty much this. Now, this is obviously run down. But for $25 a month. And I don't think that's a real price, honestly. Because they might tell you that they, I meant $25 a day, but it's so run down that, like, I wouldn't be surprised. So you can limit it to Dar es Salaam. But basically you would do this, or you just call their numbers and figure out. I mean, I did actually meet some realtors and real estate agents. So if you want to that contact, that could be a thing. But you'd have to be like pretty serious to do it. But you just go to Gigi, you go to their classifieds, and you just look for something. The apartment that I found, I found him on Gigi, and then I said, "Is this property available?" And they were like, "No, but I could find you something for XYZ." And I said, "Look, does it have what I want, which is a toilet? Make sure you get a toilet. I mean, if you don't mind not squatting, right?" And then does it have a sitting room? I wanted a sitting room, so I had to pay a little bit more than most people. But again, like, and some of the places also you have to rent for 3 months. You know what I mean? As opposed to like 3 months minimum, and like I didn't have that kind of time. So you would want to look into it now. But again, you might not want Tanzania if you don't speak Swahili. I think Tanzania is great. I want to learn Swahili. I want to go back to Tanzania and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't speak Swahili, you probably don't want to go. And now, of course, another thing is this. When I go back to Swahili, I go back to Tanzania, I might want to check out other cities like Dodoma or, Mbezi or whatever, right? Mbeya, whatever, right? I want to check out these other cities, so I might not necessarily get a whole apartment in one city right away, even though there's like a 3-month minimum sort of thing. So that's another thing to also consider is that depending on how, like if you're going out, like you should explore first. You really should explore first, but part of the trouble is this, that you want to learn a language right now. You just want to learn a second language right now, It doesn't have to be, like, it doesn't have to be Swahili, obviously. It doesn't have to be, like, if you're going to Ghana, it doesn't have to be Twi. It could be, it doesn't have to be, whatever, right? But just learn a second language. Just have it in you to be bilingual at minimum. If you're already bilingual, great. But if you're not, like, and you want to speak one of the local languages, like you just have to, like if you don't do that, then like just forget it. Just stay in the West, I mean, not really, but still, like seriously, like that's one of the focuses. When we talk about developing your life, health, and wealth, that's part of your life and your wealth, honestly, but it's part of your life. Just get another language. So Bill says, I wanted more explanation on exactly what written script we should use if we were to create a Pan-African nation with our own thoroughly African language. I brought up Metanetra because it is our base. Like Cheikh Job said, we will be forever lost if we don't see ourselves from our core cultural framing, Nile Valley civilization. Maybe something like Hieroglyphic, the functional cursive writing rather than the official hieroglyphics you see on the temple walls. I think TDKA Kilimanjaro might have done work in this area, has a whole set of books, and culturally famous based on Nile Valley culture, African timelines and calendars, etc. Okay, so there's a thing. So all right, so I actually have I didn't get to read it yet. I have a couple of his books, Kilimanjaro's books. I actually haven't really I just haven't been like let me see if I'm in the picture yet. Let's see. Yeah, you got my eye. You got African K-12. I think I had another one, but I haven't really been reading. I'm not going to hold you guys, so I can't really say one thing or another about the book. What I can say is this. So I have, what's one of my favorite books? So like I said, there's 3 books. Hold on a second. There's 3 books that I always recommend. Obviously, the Book of Power is one of them, right? This is fundamental reading, right? The other book is, here. You should always have them close, right? Message to the People, Course on African Philosophy. If you guys know, I read the entire book on YouTube, so just look at the playlist and you can see. And the third one is Ptah Htp. The thing about Ptah Htp is this, or the thing about Metanetra is this, right? That's what the letters look like. That's what the words look like. You're gonna have to make up your own written script. Like if you're going to use Metanetra, like regardless of what you think about doing, you're going to have to make up your own script. Because it's already a complete language, right? But it's not going to be able to encapsulate or capture the entirety of the modern lingo. You get what I'm saying? Like you can't expect an early, almost prehistoric, but not really, or it could be prehistoric, a prehistoric language to capture the modern language, So you're going to have to amend it. So as a base, I would absolutely love Metanetra. The only issue is that it's not a living language. Now, the Jews, the Hebrew, the Jews, the Euro Jews, what they did was that Hebrew was not a living language. and they resurrected it. They brought it back, and so now it's a functional modern language. Now, is it identical to ancient Hebrew? Probably not. You know, but that's the kind of thing that you may want to do. You know, that's the kind of thing that you may want to do. But as far as, so I would say, like me personally, if you look inside of the Book of Power, we talk about an African language. We call it Kiankobia. I can see if I can pull it up. We talk about Kiankobia, and that was like one of my goals. Like if the book had taken off, we could have done something in regards to. So actually, this is the best freaking essay in the book. So the best essay in the book is on page 291. I'll show you guys the beginning. The best essay in the book is 291, right? It's like the entire reason why you should buy the book is to see page 291. Let me see. Can you guys see the top of the screen? Yeah, page 291. What you have is, it says, for instance, in order to do well in Waset, okay, so it says, this is a speech you've been waiting for. If you are skipping ahead, I don't blame you. I'll advise you to read the terms in the glossary and return to where you were reading. But if you can't, or you've made it this far, Hotep, this is the speech to read. Every problem of the race comes back to the solution, even the elusive language problem, right? So this is my one, Boko Waset Nakeru, the model for Pan-African unity. It says, the elusive language problem. For instance, in order to do well in Waset, so Waset would be the university system, right? In order to do well in the university system, you should know the language spoken. Okay? In Waset. Well, Kiankobia. In order to prepare your child for Waset, you should know the language spoken in Waset well. Every problem, you know, and I said I shouldn't delay you, so on and so forth. So later on in the essay, you have mention of it again. It says, we will open ourselves to all. So it says, this is a Boko. The Boko is essentially where you would educate the youth, right? The public schools, the public, whatever, right? It says, the Boko is the respect, mirrors, initiation popular around Africa. It has always been the fundamental first step of every people seeking even local community. Right? Every people seeking community has built community centers, right? And those community centers serve a purpose, right? And of course, I'm not going to go through all of it because, you know, this is like the best essay in the book. So I want people to read it for themselves. But it says elevating consciousness is primary because every group is a consciousness group. The ethnicities of Africa today are consciousness groups. It's pretty interesting because if you were listening to Tanzan earlier, she was saying that every tribe, in a sense, has one language. You know, every tribe is a language group, right? And so what I would say is that every tribe is a consciousness group. Now, how consciousness and language go together, you know, is up for you to decide. But the reality is that this is what you want to capture. You want to have a group that shares a consciousness and shares a language, right? So more in our tradition to group according to consciousness as to the exclusion of others. The Ankobia is the highest stage of African consciousness, the inherent goal of Africans worldwide. We will open ourselves to all Africans, that's the Pan-Africans, who seek that consciousness and close ourselves to those that don't. In this way, a Pan-African language, Kiankobia, can spread as the language of Boko. So the idea is this. You have a community center. That community center then uses a language so that you can then go to a higher education that also uses that language. You see what I'm saying? That also uses that language. And so that makes it so that you need to learn that language in order to function in an elite status, in an elite way. Right? Because that's why you learn the language. You know, like I bumped into this woman and I said, hey, I mean, like before I went to Tanzania, I had this friend who was teaching me Swahili. He did a bad job, obviously. But I said, oh man, too bad I can't, like my son can't speak with your son because, you know, you speak Swahili. And she said, no, I'm going to teach my son English. And so I said, no, why would you teach your son? No, I didn't say why do you teach your son English. But basically, if she wants her child to have good opportunities in the future, learning English is what he would do. And so as an African people, if we're talking about Pan-African nationalism, what we have to understand is that we have to establish it so that learning a African language, and I say Kiankobia, but learning an African language, right, will give you opportunity for better institutions. What happens right now is that learning Medu Neter does not open any fucking door for you. Like, none. In the black community. If you know how to read Medu Neter, that does nothing for you. On an economical basis. Nothing. Unless there's some white person out there who will pay you to read Egyptian language, there's nothing. It does nothing for you. And that's why a lot of people will, like, it's just kind of silly to say it. Now, you compare that to the Israelites of today, and learning Hebrew, it opens a good opportunity for a Jewish boy to learn Hebrew. Or it opens a good opportunity for an Arab boy to learn Arabic. If you're in whatever country you're in, Saudi Arabia, and you learn Arabic, that's a good thing for you. Now there's probably some smaller, more indigenous languages, so on and so forth. Graduating from Waset must be a meaningful and life-changing achievement. This would universalize Kiankobia, so on and so forth. This is important. So this is Clyde Winters. So I'm just looking up Kiankobia. The only thing I wish to share is that in Medu Neter, the standard sentence is verb subject order. This is grammar we need to consider for Kiankobia. Let me see. I think at some point I'd speak about, of course, speaking Kiankobia is a goal. But Pan-African unity is not in the language. It is the training of the elite. So this is me, reflection on language variations. I say, of course, speaking Kiankobia is a goal, but Pan-African unity is not the language. It is the training of the elites, of which Boko, Waset, Nakeru is the means and method. Worrying about the language of the masses is a false pursuit that will get you nowhere as long as you aren't organized to transform the languages of the masses through Boko or mass education. We never had language uniformity in Africa, and truly language uniformity is a difficulty without a central system enforcing it or recorded media to test oneself against. Even the Eurasian must deal with older versions of their languages or contemporary unintelligible dialects. However, when it comes to their elite, they chose a particular language and dialect and have made that dialect a standard. In America, the dialect is known as the Midwestern dialect, and the people in recorded media like journalism or acting study that accent for employability. You have to face facts as well as fancies. The Southern drawl is not the standard of American propagandists. The same can be said of other Eurasian states, but such a discussion is self-evident and can be explored independently. We should form a language, Kiankobia, for our elites to communicate with one another and across Africa. We should teach it. We could make literature available in it. We could enforce it, but that's theory. As it stands, you need Boko, Waset, Nakeru. The pursuit of language uniformity without Boko, Waset, Nakeru is silly. Language has a purpose of communication. If you are not the elite of Africa, no one needs to communicate with you. Become Keru, and that's Keru is the elite, and what you speak, others will want to learn. Note, this is what others do. People aiming to be a Scotty elite right now study Eurasian languages or attend Eurasian universities and learn Eurasian languages. The same if they want to be employed by that elite. That's how even the commoner learns Eurasian languages now. If Waset is the vehicle for Ankobia elite and Waset speaks Kiankobia, commoners across Africa will study Kiankobia to get into Waset, to teach their children to get into Waset, and to be employed by graduates of Waset. This is what African commoners today do with Eurasian languages. This is what you can do for a Kiankobia and our Kiankobia script if you build Boko, Waset, Nakeru. And note the importance, the Africans in the diaspora are divided by virtue of not having a common language of the continent. We nation build to never be in the same predicament, but the merits of a common language and a common script cannot be overstated. The means, however, is Boko, Waset, Nakeru. Sorry if I was just reading. I didn't expect it to be that good. It's a good book, boys. It's a good book, fam. Anyway, so I was actually looking for where I describe what the language could be. In terms of Medu Neter and all that kind of stuff. Must read in a book to translate into Kiankobia, particularly Kiankobia. Being able to study Medu Neter will be very important for Keru, particularly Kiankobia, is fully developed. Kiankobia, another language. I have mentioned it a lot. It's it's obviously not a real language right now. So I think this was it. I think I was supposed to say, I think I wanted to create it as a language. So yeah, complete dictionary. So one of my goals, this is the goals that I wanted to do. Suggested projects for Ankobia, if you will. I said a complete dictionary of 16 African languages. The Ankobia calendar has 13 months: Zimbabwe, Mutapa, Bosoto, Kenesu, Punt, Carthage, Sao, Lunda, Ndongo, Nok, Benin, Ghana, Ma'a. These are each great kingdoms of Africa's past. Researching their vocabulary to the best of our ability would be an endeavor in Pan-Africanism and a step towards creating Kiankobia. Along with Medu Neter, Meroitic, and Kiswahili, a complete dictionary can really move us forward to not only perfecting a new grammar, but excising Eurasian elements from the African conversation. This can be in paperback as well as digital. Then, of course, you want the same for all African languages. Kiankobia grammar. I said the dictionary of the 16 African languages may suffice for a Kiankobia grammar dictionary. So far, I suggest a verb-subject order for a verb-subject-object order for sentence structure in accordance with Medu Neter as articulated in Let the Ancestors Speak by Ankh Mi Ra. But everything is up to the Ankobia and should be speculated on after the heavy work of completing a dictionary is undertaken. In the meantime, Kiswahili without the loan words and loaning African words in Medu Neter can suffice. And if that's the end of it, then so be it. Languages are taught in the Boko, and Waset would be the language of the Boko. Kiankobia, as a compilation of 16 languages from 4 different corners of Africa and across different time spans, would make it a Pan-African language assuredly. But if the matter is too difficult, it can always be tabled for a purified Kiswahili and Medu Neter, as language will be dependent on the Boko, and the Boko can adapt as long as Kariu coordinate. So that's my views at that point in time in regards to an African language. The idea being that you have, you could get languages from different corners of Africa and combine them, synthesize them into a new language that is like a new Pan-African language. Now, it might not be intelligible to everybody, but what you want to do, if you really want African people to speak a different language or to write a different language, is to coordinate it among your elite. Now, many people who are more history-minded may be reminded of how the Europeans did not speak Latin, in the Middle Ages or what have you, or their Middle Ages. They did not speak Latin, but their elite wrote and then spoke in Latin, wrote and read in Latin, and studied in Latin and shared information among themselves in Latin, right? In order to coordinate a global, quote-unquote, white supremacist endeavor. You know what I'm saying? It was not their living language. It was not a language they spoke to among their commoners. The commoners of England were speaking English. The commoners of France were speaking French. The commoners of Italy were speaking Italian. But the elites of England, the including Isaac Newton and them, right? They were speaking. They knew Latin. They studied Latin and they communicated in Latin. You know what I mean? They did that. They did that very importantly in order to, not just access the ancient Roman language, right? But they also did that in order to, coordinate among each other of different nations and different nationalities. So what we can do is like Bill is saying, yeah, use the Medu Neter if you can, but you have to establish it such that you have this university system and this elite system where these elites are codependent on each other and have a similar foundational education. And if the elites if you do not set up the institutions for the elites to coordinate with each other, then you will not, the elites will not need to coordinate with you. Instead, the elites will coordinate with the Europeans, because the Europeans, already have something. But if you don't even have a school, why are they coordinating with you? So I mean, let me see if let me just double check on what the question was by Bill, because I think maybe that might have been a good answer. Let's just double check if I he said, we have a Pan-African language thing. How do we solve this issue? Medu Neter, do you have any attempts to solve this issue? So he says, we have a Pan-African language like Swahili, but many are not written in African script. And so I want to just point out, too, on that note, that the Chinese do not write in English characters. You know, I was actually in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia has a freaking full script. So I was, I tell you, look, you could sometimes learn about life by, just, being with women. All right. So, so I was, some lady in Ethiopia. She visited my hotel, I guess, right? Just whatever. Anyway, so so in the hotel, she had to give them her ID, right? Now I don't know what her real name is. I don't know what her name is, right? Or she told me a name, but you can't trust this woman. She's whatever. She's shifty. So when they give her back her ID, I say, let me look at this, see what your name is. And it's written in the Ethiopian script, right? And that's a complete script that's modern, by the way. So it's like something that's already being used, right? She's written the Ethiopian script, and she's like, can you even read it? And it's just a bunch of like, what is this? That is, like I would say that's script, but that's another population that does not use the Latin script in order to communicate. In order to communicate. So it's not to say that and I mean it depends on like your viewpoint whether or not it's an African script or not. But for the most part, that is another African script. But like one of the things that I tend to say is this: when we talk about what we're going to do in the future or what we can do in the future, right? What you want to do in the future is like what the future holds really depends on what the people in the present agree to do. You get what I'm saying? Like it depends on what the people in the present agree to do. So I can't say, oh, what we're gonna eat tomorrow. I can't tell my son we're gonna eat this tomorrow. I could say what we're gonna eat tomorrow, but like what we're gonna eat next month. Like I can't tell him that. You know what I mean? I don't know. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. If it might be that you, like when you talk about state seizure, right? Let's go to Lero's question. When you talk about state seizure, right? State seizure is going to be done by some individuals. If those individuals, and this is a very important question, this is a very important notion, we're going to talk about it later. If those individuals are predominantly Ethiopian, chances are you're going to adopt the Ethiopian script. Or you can adopt the Ethiopian script. Like discussions of what script should we use for this new nation that we just took the state over in, chances are Ethiopia is going to be a good option. Okay? Like, because I could say, hey, you know what? I think it's Medu Neter. I could say that, right? But am I a part of that state seizure effort? And are the people who risk their lives to seize that state, are they going to say, wait, hold on a second. Oni's a god. Let's listen to him, because I'm not. You understand? So I mean, unless, you know what I mean? Unless I were, but I'm not. So because I'm not, they're going to decide on their own. What you want to do is you want to be a part of the team that is capturing the state, and you want to have that team together that when they're capturing the state, when if you survive the fight, right, which is not guaranteed, but if you survive the fight, you can then say, oh yeah, I've been studying Medu Neter, and this is a really, really, really easy script to adapt for the general education. You see what I'm saying? But the trouble is this, that people who are not a part of the state seizure are saying what's going to happen after the state is seized. If you're not trying to capture the state, don't worry about it. And in fact, I think there's a proverb by this is actually pretty important. There's a proverb, so you probably would see it in the pro-black compendium, but let me see if I can find it. There's so there's a website, my website. Let's see, my website is African Blood Siblings WordPress. This is actually going on 10 years, by the way. Just in case you guys are like, dang, Melanie, where have you been? I was on the internet. Let's see. That's what I said. I don't really celebrate the internet. Community, I think. Proverbs using the community. Yeah, about the community. So these are Kikongo proverbs, right? And so one of them says, eat, drink, yeah. Dia yanwa wala balala Bwantugulwa Bwala Kuzei Boko. Right? It says, look, eat, drink, and then sleep, for you ignore how the village was built. Just watch and see. Don't be involved in fundamental social issues of cultural and systematic discrepancies. What they're saying is this. This is how the world really is. If you're not going to be a part of the elite, if you're not going to be a part of the overclass, just enjoy your life. Just enjoy your life. This is not me saying it. This is what the ancestors in the Congo were saying. They were saying, just enjoy your life if you're not really a part of building the village, building the nation. But the people who are building the village, building the nation, what they decide is what they will decide. You know what I mean? That's what they will decide. Now, if you're saying, hey, if only you were part of it, if I were a part of it, especially when I first wrote the Book of Power, I would say, let's look at 16 different languages. Let's make this dictionary. Or, if that's not enough, let's take Kiswahili, take out the fucking Arab elements, take out the foreign elements, and just borrow from other African languages and make that our Kiankobia with Medu-Neter. Right? That's what I would say. You know? If they sit down and ask me. But if I show up at a African village, right, or an African nation that was built by other people, right, then I'm not going to, oh, well, you know, shit, you people in Nigeria, you speaking Yoruba, you shouldn't be speaking Yoruba, you should be speaking Swahili. And, like, why? You know, like, what? Why? Like, if I wasn't a part of the thing, I'll just eat, drink, and sleep. Or of course, you know, if I want to be a part of the overclass, then what I would do is I would adopt the language that they already have. Because they built it. You understand? They built it. If you go back in time and you see the Yoruba kingdom thriving, you say, hey, you know what? These people built what they did. They have a right to decide what language they're speaking. You know? And me coming in, I should just enjoy it. You know? Or I should just learn their language and adopt with them. Because they built it. And that's what it is. It really comes down to, if you are a part of building it, that's one thing. And if you're just asking me, hey, what do I think? I think let's borrow from 16 different African, like let's borrow from different corners of Africa and make our own language. You know? Let's just make our own language. Or let's upgrade Kiswahili. Anyway, so that's I hope that was enough for Bill. Let's go back to the big screen. Let's see if there's any other questions. So no more questions in the chat. Let's go to the last of the Discord questions. So he says, oh yeah, so this is a question I had. So why do black people fail at nation building and how can we succeed? Right? So I say, look, the nation is the overclass. Right? The nation is the overclass and the underclass. Okay? The nation is the overclass, right? But the country, if you will, and this is where the word's a little bit confusing, the country constitutes the nation and the population constitutes the countryside and the city, right? The countryside can be seen as the agricultural labor, and the city can be seen as the free labor. And so, I think over here I said we're not relics of the past to study or people suffering, but entities to direct and use. So when I say the city is free labor, I want us to understand that when you go into a city, you're supposed to look at the individuals there as people who are looking for work. When you are in a city, what you're doing is you're either working somehow, like you're working to get food, or you're looking for a way to get food. Because the food is in the countryside. Right? The food is in the countryside. The food grows out of the earth, right? It doesn't grow under concrete. It grows under the earth, though, right? So, you're in the city. That means that you need to find a way to feed yourself. Okay? And so, what we as African people don't do enough is we don't go into cities and say, how can I employ you? How can I employ you? How can I use you to make my wealth and your wealth increase? You know, so one of the things I did in Tanzania was I showed you guys I met a fashion, like a dressmaker or whatever, and yeah, I gave her a small loan. I gave her a small loan with the expectation that she pays me back, a little bit more than I gave her. But the point being that, you say to yourself, hey, look, I'll give you, and in return, you give me. In return, we both work it out. She gets several months of her, like her livelihood being supported, and then eventually when she's earning the big bucks for herself, she can pay me back, and we're all good. We're all gravy. Right? Pay me back, more than I gave her, obviously, because you only loan to make money. But that's the essence of what it is. You have to go into the cities and see what opportunity do I have, what opportunity can I make for myself, and when you do this on a broad enough scale, and you keep scaling up, I can build machines that build machines. I can produce these, I can produce that, and what I have is a bunch of free labor to work for me. That's where you can advance as a people. What we tend to do is we tend to look at ourselves as, we're the victims of neo-colonialism. We're suffering, we're poor. Don't go into a city and see, despair. Go into a city and see opportunity. Okay? See opportunity. But that opportunity, again, comes from you having your wealth, your health, and your life in order. Okay? You get those in order, and then you can go and explore. You can explore cities and get that in order for other people as well. Help people get there in order for themselves, but also bolster up your do the mutual benefit, mutual community growth in that way. Let me see if any comments on that. Icon Fire says only respect. Shout out to Icon Fire. So yeah, okay, respect, brother. So let's see, what's the next one that we want to do? We have this one. I say, what's wrong with this? I actually wrote this one yesterday. Like, nobody really asked this question, but I decided, look, I'm gonna go into this lady for whatever reason. So I think this kind of relates to the thing I was talking about earlier. The thing I was talking about earlier about just reading for no damn reason. This lady says, today I successfully defended my dissertation. I'm Tamisha J. Ponder, PhD, right? So you're like, okay, what was your dissertation, right? And this is it. So she did, I guess she did a digital defense. I wasn't going to do a hunger strike, but in the end, my body paid a price. An annotated study of the lived experiences of the Black Lives Matter student activists between 2014 and 2016. So this woman, so again, like I said, you can read for whatever reason. You can read for whatever reason you want. This woman decided, hey, look, I'm going to be a PhD, a doctoral. Like, I'm going to be a doctor. And what is your field of expertise, right? Your field of expertise is the experiences of Black Lives Matter student activists between 2014 and 2016. Okay? And this is the trap. This is the trap of a paralysis of analysis. This is the trap of just being too well educated. Of being I call them in the pro-black compendium, I say there's 4 different stages of consciousness. I say there's the Ascati, which is the lowest stage, obviously. Then I say that there's the activists, right? The student activists here. Then I say that there's the astute. And I think the astute are a lot of the quote unquote black conscious community. The astute is your Marimba Ani, it is your Amos Wilson, it is your so on and so forth. But the astute essentially are very, very smart. But you want to transition into what I call the Ancobia, which is the people who are going to build things. Like I want our people to be active and actionable and acting. And that's one of the frustrations that a lot of people have, is that they come across essentially scholars, So this person, Tamisha, she can tell you, she's the foremost expert on the planet, right? The foremost expert on the planet in regards to the experiences of student like Black Lives Matter student activists between these 2 fucking years nobody cares about.
You know, and that's the thing that you'll see in regards to our people is that, you know, we can be well versed in things that do not mean anything. And what happens is this, that, you know, realistically, you know, University of Baltimore, Maryland, you know, so on and so forth, she can now get a good job, a good cozy job by this white man. This has no functional use in any black country or in any black space. No functional use. It has no functional use in a white space, but the white man will pay you, because one thing about this is that you are perfectly distracted. You are an expert in something that has no meaning. Like nothing. It means nothing. But you are the world's expert in it. You know? And I mean, yeah, sure, you could say, like the people say, congratulations. You know? Congratulations. Right? But this is one of the things that you do not want to do. Like, I think about, hey, you could be the world expert in aircraft theory, right? Which is fine. World expert in aircraft theory. That is beautiful. But unless you can form a team to put together an aircraft, it is useless. It is useless. You might know aeronautics. You might know engineering. You might know, it doesn't matter. We have to put the metal in your hand. And that metal, I want people to realize, comes from the capital that you may have. The capital that you or others may have acquired, so that you and others can then build aircraft that you can sell to either the nation, or if you want to sell it to foreigners, whatever you want to do, get OPM, other people's money, whatever it is you want to do, you have to have action on theory, and your studies should be to the limit of what you can do with your studies. You know, a lot of people kind of study just to study, which is fine to some degree. A lot of people study for entertainment. It's fine to some degree. But if you're talking about how can we advance as a people, advance as a nation, we have to recognize that, one, there are a lot of distractions. Like this, whatever they did to Tamisha, because again, in another world, Tamisha could have been a brilliant lady. I'm not saying she's not brilliant, because she defends her dissertation. She gets the PhD I don't have. You get what I'm saying? She gets the PhD. Okay? But what can it do? What can it do? You know, so that's my, of course, this is not a real prompt, so I'm not really going to go too hard on her. Because, it's not a real prompt. I just made it up yesterday. I just saw it yesterday, and I was like, the fuck? All right, let's see the comments. Kofi says, good point so far. Icon Fire says, we need black people who know the basics of constructing a road infrastructure underground and above, including sewer and drainage. That's not a big deal. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, too. It's like, even if you know how to build a road, right? Even if you know how to build a road, do you have the resources to? You know? Because when I'm in Tanzania or when I'm in Ghana, I'm looking around and I'm like, damn, there's a lot of need for, first off, broadening this road, getting a freaking sidewalk. You know, there's a lot of need for that. But what would it cost a government to do that? You know? What would it cost a government to put sidewalks on every side street? You know? As I was walking in Manhattan, when I returned, I was like, yeah, Manhattan could afford it because Manhattan's fucking rich. It's rich from, what we would say the stolen wealth that, it had. It's rich, and it had city planning involved. The city planning that went into a lot of these former colonies in Africa was, to take out wealth, to drive, trucks of, resources from one end to the other. They didn't accommodate for people walking on the side of the road, because why were people walking on the side of the road if they were not free? If they were not free, who was walking on these sides of the roads? There's nobody living there. You know what I mean? This was forest or something. What are you walking on the side of the road for? What are you walking for miles through forest? Like, what are you doing? You drive for miles through forest. You don't walk through miles of forest. So, yeah, what would it cost? And if you cannot capture that cost, then it doesn't matter. Afrojam says logistics. That's really what it is. Iconfire says, I bet you don't know what a woman is with that PhD. Exactly, right? A woman is. All right, so let's see. Let's go on. Iconfire says, only that lady has no use to us as you talking the truth, bro. I'm just saying. Bill says, no functional use in any space. It really has, like, come on. Because the thing is this. It's it's a bunch of student activists from, what was it, 9 years ago? Like, who cares? Like, who cares? You're the foremost expert, but who cares? The 9 years ago, who cares? You know? Anyway, so no functional use in any space, STEM or go home. Even if your major is not STEM, at least be technical, analytic, like linguistics or research methods and statistics, what Kilimanjaro majored in. Yeah, I mean, it's STEM, but it's also, like, I want to emphasize too, it's also, you have to have your hand on capital. Like, you have to have your hand on wealth or access to wealth. You have to be able to appeal to people with wealth. You have to be able to coordinate because you have to be able to appeal with the government, which the government always has wealth. Now, whether they can expend that wealth for a road on this little street, this little unknown street, is a different question, right? But it would, and whether they would spend it on sidewalks when the people are okay with walking on the side of the road, as dangerous as it is, so be it. But this is the thing that we as an African people have to recognize, that whatever it is that you want in this world is going to cost. I think it's not really a real quote, but some say that the ancient Egyptians have articulated an idea similar to, for every joy there's a price to be paid. And this is something that you have to realize in your life, that every time you're looking for a joy, you have to pay something. Like, something comes out of it, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's whatever. Nothing is for free in this world. And that's the trouble with the internet dialogue, the internet banter, is that it makes you believe that things can be free. Because you go on the internet for free, and you talk to these people for free, and you expect to change the world for free, and it's not a real thing. Everything has a cost. Everything has a cost. And so, that said, that's one of the things that we have to notice as a people. So anyway, I don't see any other questions. So what I'm going to do is, there's two more questions. I just got them today from the same brother. So he says, look, these are more philosophical questions. This is a philosophical brother. So he says, is universal suffrage a good idea for Africans? Should everyone be allowed to vote in a society, or only people with skin in the game? For example, educated elites with economic interests. For example, in the early U.S., only white male landowners could vote. So universal suffrage as a good idea for Africans. Now again, what you want as a people, or what every people group do, is they have an overclass and an underclass. They have an elite and a I guess commoners, right? I want to open up the Book of Power again and just because there's this one passage. I don't know if I. Yeah. This is one of the most important documents in the history of African people, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't remember the name of it. And this is why I am very partial, Bill. I'm very partial to us as African people learning Meta Nature, because essentially one of the things that Egypt left behind was the largest record of ancient civilization in human history, right? So that stated, they do describe some ancient practices. Now, here it goes. So the word is magnate. So I say the elite. What they say is magnate. So what we're going to do is, now what's interesting is that sometimes when you're searching for one thing, you might see something else in the podcast. So this is my Afyong speech. And I say, look, it's plain as day that you need your Karu, your educated elite, your conscious magnates to run the show. Now, why do I use the word magnate though? This is another reference to magnate. This is the Carlos Cooks thing. So sometimes I would use magnate instead of elite, but there's a reason why I use magnate. Let's see. This is another one. This is the good essay, so I can't show you guys that. Magnate. Okay, here. So this is so this is one of the most important things. Instructions from Merikare. Now I thought it was another paper, that's why I didn't remember it, but I remember instructions from Merikare. So this is Merikare. Wait, hold on a second.
wait. Discusses. Wait. If all the. I also follow the alternate with another section of the instructions that discusses the need for. Is it here? That's crazy. Let me see. Conscious magnates. Okay. Look. So this is the most important. This is instructions of Merikare, right? I think I have another translation in the pro-black compendium. It's that important that I printed it twice, right? This page is, for those of you who don't know, this is page 456. All right. So he says, "Lo, the miserable," so on and so forth, right? Then he goes over, and this is so important. Actually, I'm not going to skip it. It's short. "Lo, the miserable Eurasian." When we talk about races, this is what the ancient Egyptians said about the ancient. Well, and sometimes some translations say Asiatics. Otherwise, I'll say Eurasians, right? He says, "Lo, the miserable Eurasian. He is wretched because of the place he's in." Now, actually, I'm going to read the annotation. All right, I'm going to read the annotation. Okay, the annotation's a little long, but I'm going to read the annotation. We don't really have that much time because I did tell my son's mother that I'm going to, I only have 40 minutes. Wait, let me see. Let me just text her really quickly. Let me just text her. Because, she's probably going to say no. I'm going to try to extend it, but she might say no. And that's fine. It's her prerogative. I'm not, one thing, like I said to you guys, I'm not about forcing people to do anything, right? So anyway, look, Kerry Yasaba, Kerry the Seventh. So this is an alternative translation to the instructions of Merikare that is shaded in the pro-black compendium under Heru Wars, which is one of the most important sections in that book. The theme must be repeated. An ancient African Nasut king explained to his son how Eurasians were at war with Africans from the time of Heru, which in some understanding can mean since Kemet began, as Heru's Baba, Asar, founded Kemet, or since time immemorial, as Heru is a Necher. Either way, it's worth noting that the characteristics of the Eurasian: he's from an impoverished area, he is an unsatisfied vagrant, he is a long-standing enemy, and he has no honor. That's what black ancient Africans were saying about white people. He says, this description serves to inform us of who we are. We are from a rich area, we are satisfied and sedentary. Let me make sure that you guys can see the text, by the way. Yeah. Wait, is it too small? I can't tell. Let me just zoom in a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be in the way when I zoom in. Yeah, okay, that's good. He says, the statement, so the description serves to inform us on who we are. We are from a rich area, we are satisfied and sedentary, and we have honor. The statement on Eurasians never conquering clearly never held up, right? So the ancient Africans said, the Europeans can't conquer anybody, right? So he said the other more important statement is on how Eurasians cannot seize from a populous town, right? Eventually, of course, this does not turn out to be true, and it's because we need to, as Africans, understand nationalism more profoundly and stay ahead of Eurasians, something Kemet failed to do, but it's worth noting because it speaks to the strength and unity against Eurasians as opposed to disunity. So basically they're saying, hey, we form these popular towns in order to defend ourselves better. Again, what you want to do as a nation builder is form towns, form communities, form cities, take over towns, take over cities, take over nations. That's what you want to do. Right? But let's keep going. So, understand nationalism more profoundly and stay ahead of Eurasians. Something Kemet fail to do, but it's worth noting because it speaks to the strength and unity against Eurasians as opposed to disunity. Snatching from lonely roads is in essence what Europeans' carving of Africa was, right? Could it seize from a more populous town? It could have went either way. But the small, isolated villages were fodder for the Eurasian war machine. Remember that, because I was having this conversation, again, like on Tanzan's program about this, they're like, hey, it's decentralized. Which is better, centralized or decentralized? And I said, look, decentralized is easy to freaking take over. It's centralized that's not. You understand? Decentralized is easy. You just have to find it. Again, and I give the example. If I have if a white boy walks in with an assault rifle into a grocery store, she can kill 20 black people if they're not armed. And what a lot of these villages are, they're not armed. To the extent that they could defend against one shooter, let alone an army of shooters, which is what Europeans really invaded with. Not just one shooter who can take down a whole village, but an army of shooters who can take down a whole village. You know? So he said, and the nations of Africa without proper Ancobia leadership will continue to be fodder to the Eurasian war machine until the Ancobia take charge. So take charge, Ancobia. I also follow the alternate translation with another section of the instructions that discusses the need for good speech and the importance of magnates. So we're going to really highlight the magnates, but this is Merikari, so it's so important that I just say, fuck it, This is Boko Waset Nakeru on display. The instructions of Merikari are one of the words that ought to be translated from Medu Necher by Ancobia. So this is one of the more important documents that I should go. So let's go into it. I see Kofi says it's good. I say, lo, the miserable Eurasian. He is wretched because of the place he's in. It's short of water. It's bare of wood. Its paths are many and painful because of mountains. He does not dwell in one place. Food propels his legs. He's hungry all the time. He fights since the time of Heru. He's not conquering nor being conquered. So we were trying to conquer him. You can't conquer him because he's like basically guerrilla warfare in a sense. But he's just fighting. He does not announce the day of combat. You know what I mean? He does sneak attacks. Like a thief darts about a group. The Eurasian is a crocodile on its shores. It snatches from a lonely road, so you don't want to walk by yourself. But it cannot seize from a populous town. So basically you collectivize and the European will not win. Right? This is what the ancient African ancestors are saying, not really to you exactly, but to his son. He's telling his son, hey, look, if you're going to be ruling, just understand you have a fucking enemy. You have an enemy, and he's a fucking piece of shit. But if you organize and collectivize, don't worry about that motherfucker. You can't beat him, but he can't beat you either. Now, of course, this changes when, the Assyrians, and actually I had a video, I took a video yesterday, I was at the museum. I took a video yesterday of the Assyrians and all that kind of stuff. But I might put it up as a YouTube short. So make sure if you're not following me, follow me, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is what the ancient ancestors said. Now I'm going to go to the second part of it. He says, be skillful in speech that you may be strong. Okay? Speak well. It is the strength of the tongue, and words are braver than all fighting. None can circumvent the clever man on the mat. And look at this right here. A wise man is a school for the magnates. Okay, the magnates are the elites. Okay, the magnates are the business owners, the corporation owners. These essentially, this Merikari is telling you, hey, look, if you're a wise man, even the elite are going to listen to you. And of course, Merikari is the king, right? So they're going to listen to him anyway. But they're not going to be remiss about listening to him. Because the thing is this, if you're a fool, it doesn't matter if you're the fucking king or not. It's like Trump. He's a president, sure, but he's a fucking idiot. So was everybody like, oh yeah, let's go along with him? No. But then you have Obama, who wasn't a fucking idiot. And yeah, even Bill Gates and them are like, Obama, can you talk to me? I'm just saying, right? Some people don't like Obama. Some people don't like. Some people like Trump. I don't care, right? Again, it's like for me, it's like they're just Americans, right? But anyway, let's go on. So it says, a wise man is a school for the magnates, and those who are aware of his knowledge do not attack him. You see what I'm saying? You're useful when you have real knowledge that even the magnates, even the elites can use. And that's a fundamental concept, generally speaking. In fact, this brother showed me this book. I shouldn't show it off, but this brother showed me this book where he was like, hey, the Chinese wrote this science fiction, and they were like, the reason why they didn't kill this engineer is because he was an engineer with skills, and he was like, yeah, Chinese value knowledge. And it's like, yeah, ancient Egyptian. They now knowledge in the leadership, because again, this is Keti. This is Keti Yasaba. This is the king. Okay, this is the king educating his son on king shit. Okay, like this is not only the professor telling his son, here's how I think. It's not me. It's the king telling the other king, oh yeah. So those who are aware of the knowledge do not attack him. Crime does not exist near him, but Ma'at comes to him in full essence after the manner of what the ancestors said. So this is the quote that's in the back of, I can't remember what book. It might be, is it the Book of Power? Probably not the Book of Power. It's probably the Pro-Black Compendium. The quote in the back of the Pro-Black Compendium, or maybe in the front of the Pro-Black Compendium, is
copy your forefathers, for work is carried out through knowledge. And he says, see their words endure in writing. Open that you may read and copy knowledge. Even the expert will become one who is instructed. Right? So he's like, so that's another thing that, realistically speaking, you go back into the ancients, and this is the ancients saying copy your freaking ancients, but the ancients have blueprints, right? Now, as far as, I think I might have had a little tangent, but as far as, I guess we're talking about about the vote. I don't know how we got into this, skin in the game. Oh, the magnates probably. Why is the Dome is here? Make sure you guys check out Why is the Dome. He's actually doing a hip-hop compilation, so that's pretty cool. Like make sure you guys check out Why is the Dome. But what I'm going to say is this, that as far as universal suffrage is concerned, as far as voting is concerned, now there's two things I want to say, right? I heard this from like my brother. Like I said, I was on Tanzan's program for a second, and Mtambizi, Mwanatenzi, I can't remember, but that brother was saying he had a conversation, I guess with himself, honestly, about democracy, and he was saying that he noticed that all the Western states all the states that practice democracy. Like none of the states that practices democracy are fighting the West. The only ones that are fighting the West do not really have real elections, like Russia, China, Rwanda type things. But essentially, he was like, the Westerner might like democracy because of the fact that they can have a hand in the leadership. Now, what Merikare and Keti Asaba tell you or inform you is that the leadership of Africa would have been hereditary. And what's interesting is that, like, this particular brother that gave me the prompt, this particular brother would always tell me about the importance of black family. And not that I don't know about the importance of black family, but I guess I could say he's Nigerian, so he's gonna tell me like I don't know, right? That might be too much information, right? But anyway, but what I can say is this, that you can like the importance of the black family, and the reality is that your family is hereditary. You understand? Your family is hereditary. Now what I really want to emphasize is that the people who are part of your overclass are going to be, if you establish your nation in such a way, right? The people of your overclass are going to be the best people in your community, right? Now, whether or not you pick the figurehead, whether or not you pick the president, this one position or the handful of lawmakers, the reality is that the magnates, right, the elite, are the ruling class. They are the overclass of every nation on the planet. And again, this goes back to the time of Merikare and Keti. This is the king of ancient Kemet telling his son, hey, you know what? Be smart so that, nobody attacks you. So that you are valued by the business owners, by the scientists, so that you're valued by the community by the overclass, by the ruling class, by the real movers and shakers of your town. You will be valued by them if you are wise. But the most important thing is that you be valued by people. Or essentially, you should be valued by this group of people. This is the thing about when we talk about nation building. This is who you are supposed to be building. These are real individuals that you are supposed to be building. You are supposed to be joining a part of this group of people. I highlighted the magnates. You are supposed to be a part of the magnates. Me, if I only have so many small investments because I don't have that much money. I'm not rich, right? But as I grow in wealth, I should be able to have many more connections in Tanzania. Many more connections. And be valued for wisdom. For instance, I told you guys about the sister who got the small loan. She comes to me and says, hey, what kind of advice can you give me? And I give her advice. She uses it. And just one person may value me, sure. Not just one person. I also have a farm, obviously, and they value me for that. But the point being that that's what you have to do, and that person, those people who now own swaths of land, they are deciding. They are fundamental to the policies of the country, even if they don't hold real elected positions or real formal positions. Even if they don't hold real formal positions, they're fundamental in the sense of, look at this guy, the guy from Facebook, right? Zuckerberg, right? He does not hold a political office. Nobody voted for him. But when you talk about issues of cybersecurity in the congressional circles, right? He's there. He's giving his view and his insight. And if not him, it's somebody who's an expert in cybersecurity or in the cybersecurity fields, in the internet, in the digital spaces. Not necessarily the people who were elected by other individuals or by a general consensus, right? Not necessarily them, although they're present. And so, whatever it comes down to, realistically, we have to remember that the people who are, like in a nation, the people who are truly of the ruling class, of the overclass, are going to be the social class that you should aspire to be a part of. Right? And certainly, you can throw to people this idea of choosing their own leadership, and it might feel good on some capacity, but again, that's not necessarily the essential of good government. The essential of good government is this: that the leadership, one, understands who their enemy is, right? And two, is a good person. Is a good, well-studied person. Now, if the question is who can best select that good, well-studied person, who could best select that, so on and so forth, is it a general choice? Is it the people who have property? Is it so on and so forth? The reality is that, or is it a family? Is it the people? Like, realistically, it would be, in ancient Egypt, it would be the people who studied to be in that position. But in a situation where nobody's really seriously studying to be in that situation, it's pretty much random. That said, for us as African people, for us as Sankofa, we would want to have our own institutions. We would want to have our own monarchs, our own kings, if that's what we so desire. But that's like, we would want our own families to have their own rulership. But that's what multinationalism comes down to. You would not necessarily only have one nation. As an African people, you will have multiple nations, and you will coordinate on a multinational basis. So what you have in England is you have the Windsor family, and then in France you have another royal family, and in Spain you have a different royal family. And they're all coordinating with each other, but they all decided, we're going to try a different method, a different route. But what's important is that the Americans, they may not have monarchs, they may not have kings, they may have people who step down, they may have George Washington go to John Adams, go to Thomas Jefferson, so on and so forth. They may have that, and of course they have this ruling, they have these wealthy families that hold a lot of this together. But even though they have that, and they have a different system, the important thing to pick up from America is not what their governmental system was, or whether John Adams stepped down, or this person served this many years. That's not what's important. What's important about America is that it's so fucking big. It's so large. It covers so much land mass. That being that large, right, it has that much more influence over the other governments that are just smaller. And can't compete. And that's the thing that I want to say, some German dictator was saying. He was saying, some German dictator was saying that he's like, fuck, we need to get bigger land. I can't remember what he called it. I think it's Lebensraum or something like that. I don't know. But he was like, in order for us to be a really competitive people as Germans, we have to have as much land as these Americans have. And that's what you really have to study when you're talking about systems of government. So, it really depends on what the people want. What the nation wants. Whether the people who lead this revolution or these revolutions, because you don't want to just have one revolution anyway. You want revolutions all over the fucking planet, right?
But whatever they decide, they can go with. Like I said, if it's a predominantly Ethiopian group, they may say, let's put our emperor in charge, right? If it's a predominantly Yoruba group, they may say, let's put the Yoruba, like whatever it is, you want the group to decide, okay? And then, as long as they follow these sort of principles that are outlined, in the Book of Power and that kind of stuff, everything is fine. Whether you have a Emperor Haile Selassie or whomever, his children or whatever, whether you have that, or whether you have, whether you have this emperor and this hereditary family, or whether you have, the best person voted out of this, so whatever it is you have, they're serving 4 years, or they're serving 8 years, or they're serving 20 years. Whatever it is, as long as the people are living well, eating healthy, they have their good life, health, and wealth down pat, that's what people really care about. That's what people really care about. In ancient Egypt lasted for, 6,000, 8,000 years, based off of a hereditary monarchy system. It did change in dynasties, so on and so forth, but, you didn't vote in ancient Egypt, and they were happy. They were the best people on the planet. They were a global wonder. I think actually I do talk about democracy in this book. Now that I think about it, I think Chancellor Williams likes democracy, and I think I was pointing out that democracy is not really who is this quoting? Who is this? I gotta look this up. But anyway, so democracy is not who is this? Is this? Oh yeah, this is Maurice Bishop. So Maurice Bishop was talking about how you couldn't vote if you were not a part of the revolution. If you were against the revolution, you couldn't vote after the revolution. And that was in America. He was talking about America. So I can't find it. There's so many things in the Book of Power. It's a large book. Make sure you guys get it. Is this just a large commercial for the Book of Power? Possibly. Why is this thing not moving? Okay, I don't know what's going on. I think I might be looking at the wrong. Okay, it's just not loading. Okay, we discussed democracy. We discussed bureaucracy. Yeah, so I say, look, the rule of Eurasians. When we discuss democracy, we discuss bureaucracy. Own that. We had kingship. Let's keep it that way. Yes, it was kingship that was sanctioned by the masses, but democracy as we know it, with its elections and so on, are the brainchild of Eurasian fool named Solon. The very same Solon whom ancient Africans said, Solon, Solon, you Greeks are perennial infants, not a single Greek is an elder. Yes, Solon studied in Africa, but give the Greeks their system and leave the name democracy to them. We are setting up an African system. We don't need the Eurasian name. Even the word Afrikisi speaks of Eurasianism. Kiankobia is a chance to explore new worlds. Baba at some point says that an inferiority complex is drilled into Africans. Again, Boko. So this is me, and before I introduce, I think, Chancellor Williams' commentary. So, yeah, I mean, again, democracy, just give the Greeks their democracy. That's what I would say. Me personally, that's what I would say. Now, again, if revolutionaries from America decide, hey, we're going to do, if revolutionaries, African American revolutionaries say, we're gonna put the U.S. Constitution into, that's up to them. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna stop, if you could have stopped the fucking revolution, first off, do you want to stop a revolution by African Americans? But if you could have, this one is over. But the reality is this: to the winner goes the spoils. That's how the world is. To the winner goes the spoils. I'm not a part of this revolution, let alone this revolution that's, leading to democracy. But even if I were a part of a revolution that led to democracy, and somehow I survived until the end, and the people around me said, we're doing democracy or fuck off, right? And I say, no, fuck democracy, blah, blah, blah. They'll just fucking kill me. Like revolution is about killing people in order to put down your vision and your future. And so, I mean, sure, there could be another side where I'm leading or I'm a part of the dominant contingent, and I'm like, no, not democracy. Let's get this king over here. Let's make this person king because he's the fucking, he's great. He has a good black family. He's doing it. Let's make this person the queen and all that kind of stuff. And then they do that. And you can even see that in what happened in Haiti. What happens in Haiti? Jean-Jacques Dessalines wins the revolution.
he makes himself the emperor of Haiti, and then the mulattoes kill him, right? And we're going to talk about that now later on in this the second part. So like as far as is universal suffrage a good idea or not, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if it's a good idea or not, because unless you're a revolutionary, like it doesn't matter. Now, what I would say is let's do a kingship. Let's do a royal family that's being educated. Let's do a family that's being educated to lead, and they're serious education to know about the ins and outs of leadership, and it's continually updated, and of course beholden to the people and all that kind of stuff. Let's do that. But I mean that's just an idea for now. I might think something different tomorrow or the day after, or even like I said, in circumstances of revolution or in circumstances of war, you have to be malleable. You know, what you believe in the beginning of the war versus what you believe in after the war are two different things. Like in fact, I'm going to go to the Maurice Bishop thing. I'm going to go to it because I think it's actually important what he said about in America and who can vote. Because, I didn't include it for no reason. And so this is Petion and... so look at this right here. I'll show you guys. This is something else. This is... who is this? I think this is... so this is my big discussion on race and race purity. Actually, it's related to the conversation going on. This is John Henry Clark, The Role of Bastards as a Factor in History. And so what you have is this. One of the last of mulatto governors, Petion, when they were arguing about democracy or dictatorship, Christophe had a dictatorship, but everybody was fed, going to school and doing well, and Petion had another part of the island that was called democracy, modeled after Europe, but everybody was starving over there. Had a conversation, yeah. So why is now again? This could be exaggeration. This could be John Henry Clark telling a good story, whatever, right? But let's take it for what it says. John Henry Clark is telling you, Petion set up a democracy. Christophe set up a dictatorship. Petion's democracy had everybody starving. Christophe had a dictatorship or a kingship or whatever you want to say. Everybody was fed and going to school and doing well, right? If you understand Haitian history, you will know that Petion is the one who sells out Haiti. Okay? Petion's the mulatto who sells out Haiti. Petion's also a part of the party that kills Dessalines. Now again, Dessalines leads the revolution, sets himself up as emperor, sets his wife up as emperor's wife, and says in the Constitution, y'all keep paying my wife even if I die. Right? Doesn't matter if he said that because they killed him. This is the reality of the human world, is that we are using violence to a large extent to enforce our will. Right? And it doesn't matter what you will individually, because it's collectively that we are killing each other, right? It's collectively that we are enforcing our will, and that can be at the expense of people's lives. Like that's the reality of the world. The reality of the world is that you can have a nice idea and then somebody could kill you. We can all be leading a revolution together, all of us in this room, right? All of us in this group, and then one of us just kills me. One of you just kills me. For whatever reason, I don't know. But that's just how the world will go. And the world would move on. The world would move on. It's not like the earth is going to stop. It's not like ideas are going to stop. The world will move on. You get what I'm saying? And that's just the reality of the world. That you can't cling on to any individual or any sort of individual belief. It doesn't matter. It could just be that, 10 of us, there's 10 of us in the room right now, and then a bomb goes off and kills 5 of us. And then the 5 remaining have to form something. Or even the 5 remaining don't form anything. Another group comes in and kills the rest of them, and then they're enforcing something. Like, that's the way of the world. So what one individual may like, I like the idea of and again, like what it means in the beginning of the revolution versus what it means in the end of the revolution are two important things. So I want to go into what Maurice Bishop was saying about the vote in. He said who could vote after the revolution in America, which was really important. So I'm looking up vote. Hopefully I can find it. But you see, it's hard to find things because there's so many things.
let's see if I can do a revolution or something. Revolution. So we're actually looking at the Book of Power. But I encourage you guys to read the Book of Power back and forth. Religion never leads to revolution unless you have your own indigenous spirituality. Who said this? Like, there's so many, I tell you, this is like such a good book. And realistically speaking, you want to keep rereading it. I shouldn't even be saying who said this. Let's see. Oh, Bobby Wright. So yeah, we got Bobby Wright in the book. Let's see. Bobby Wright. You don't propose a revolutionary pose. It's revolutionary. Let's see. Unknown revolutionary. Revolutionary. Who is this? Let's see. Ryan Delaney. Oh, Ryan Delaney talking about the American Revolution. Oh my gosh. Samahani, folks. Samahani means I'm sorry. Dessalines, Constitution of the Revolution. So I show you that this is one of the things. IT's Constitution. So I have IT's Constitution in here because I said this is one of the important documents. Look at what he says about the Empire of IT, so on and so forth. Of the government is entrusted to the first magistrate who assumes the title of the Emperor and Commander-in-Chief. The people acknowledge the Emperor and Commander-in-Chief as Jean-Jacques Dessalines. He goes on, he says the Emperor designates so on and so forth. The Emperor and his successors shall in no case and under no pretext whatsoever have the right of attacking to the person, any particular or privileged body, so on and so forth. So his successors, i.e., he's saying that, hey, my children are going to be emperors too, right? And he also says that his kids are like exempt from military service, exempt from the lowest rank of military service at some point. It's really an important constitution to read, but I want to see. Look, the state shall assign to the state. No, there shall be assigned to the state an annual income to the children acknowledged by His Majesty the Emperor. He said the state will appropriately fix annual allowance to Her Majesty the Empress, which will continue to enjoy even after the decease of the Emperor as Princess Dowager. Right? So he's like, hey, we're setting up the state, and my wife, the Majesty is conferred upon him as well as upon his august spouse, the Empress. My wife is going to be given money. My children are going to be given money, and my children are going to have the right to rule even after I'm deceased. This doesn't happen. It's a good idea. They all agree to it. In fact, let me go back to that. Sorry. I want one of the important things. Like I say, one of the most important things about this document is who signs it. So I include the signatories on it. I know I'm doing so much. Look, we, Henry Christophe, Clever Next, so on and so forth. Petillon. This is another Toussaint, not the same one that I think Toussaint already died by this time. Capoy, Cogne, so on and so forth. This guy, and maybe a handful of these other people, killed Jean-Jacques Dessalines even after signing this constitution. It doesn't matter what your ideas are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I love the idea of, hey, you know what? We should have ideas right now. I love that idea. But realistically speaking, recognize that it does not matter. Okay? I could tell you, hey, that's a great idea. Or you could tell me, hey, that's a great idea, and stab me in the fucking back. I'm not going to say that I'm going to stab you in the back, because that's not something that somebody should ever say. But I could say that you would stab me in the back, not because you would, but because it just sounds better than me saying I would stab you in the back. I'm not really about stabbing people in the back, by the way. I want to just go into this one quote. Let's see. Understand the revolution. This is Grenada. Where people, blah, 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 blah. I want to the fact of the revolution, Grenada Revolution, Nicaraguan Revolution, Chile, Mutapa. These people understand the situation. Let's see. Okay, no. Okay, when the Americans had their revolution in 1776, it took them 13 years to call their election. In the first week of the American Revolution, 100,000 fled to Canada. Thousands were locked up. 100,000 fled to Canada. Thousands were locked up without charge or trial. Hundreds were shot. And the counter-revolutionaries after the American Revolution had no right to vote. They had no right to teach. They had no right to preach. They had no right to a job. Their land was confiscated without payment. So when the falsifiers of history try to pretend that the American Revolution was a Boston Tea Party, it was a very bloody Tea Party. Right? This is President Grenada. So what he's saying is this: in 1776, 13 years for them to call an election. So again, what we have to be serious.
We have to be serious. And like the brother was saying in the question, he said, hey, America established election. When they did establish election, it was only the property owners and so on and so forth. Yeah, sure. Before they even did an election, they had a constitution with an election and all that stuff. Before they even called an election, they said no. They said no. We're going to first off, we're going to kill the counter-revolutionaries. We're going to kill the Ascari. We're going to kill our Ascari. Right? We're going to kill our traitors. We're going to kill the people who were not willing to fight against the thing. And that's the reality. You can... I might be talking too fast. I'm sorry. You can be fighting another people, and then they... You could be in a city. Like I say, you go to Tanzania, and you could be like, hey, I'm really about revolution, and you don't do your role. Somebody else does their part. Then they say, you know what? These motherfuckers are trying to do something that I don't like. They'll fucking kill you. That's it. That's how life is. Iconfire says, Iconfire says, honey, you're going to be great. I'm backing you. Asante, brother. Iconfire says, we would have to institute elite schools of Pan-Africanism and Black history at the helm of the curriculum. Exactly. That's what I call Waset. And not just Black history, but yeah, Pan-African Black history, but also like the brother was saying, STEM, just science, magnates, that kind of thing. But definitely, that's what we have to be about. So I'm going to go to the next question. I think it's the last question, unless somebody else has a question. Let me check with my son's mother really quickly, whether or not I have more time. Because if she doesn't say I have more time, then I don't. Because I already told her 2 o'clock, and it's like 1:43, so 1:46, so I have like 15 minutes. Hold on. You don't heard that, right? Yeah, I don't see any comments. All right, so I said, in a world, the brother says, in a world, I hope I answered that question. So number 2, he says, in a world steeped in white power and black powerlessness, and historical examples of how the negatively influenced and ultimately destroyed black nations, how do you guard against your oncobia, falling trapped to the mulatto-ruled problems of Haiti, ancient Kemet, according to Chancellor Williams, and every Latin American and Caribbean country that is black majority but mixed, Jamaica, Brazil, Belize, etc. Now, why am I man throwing Jamaica like that? We're not mixed in Jamaica, anyway. But I'm not saying whatever. It is what it is. So where are we? Let me see. So coincidentally, I could just keep this open. So that's where we go into the IT revolution again. We go to the John Henry Clark. It was. So this is one of the most important things to remember about the role of the bastard as a factor in history. So this is my scientific description of how you could acquire racial purity. Yeah, it's over here. Basically in 4 generations you could become pretty purified, right? But one thing you want to realize about IT that a lot of us ignore. Is this the one right here? A lot of us ignore. I'm going to talk about it. Let's see. So one thing what we ignore in IT was how they set it up from the beginning to be, I call them bastards, but to be a mulatto country. So again, the nation is the leadership, the overclass, right? And if you do not have the overclass, so here it goes. So I say, look, the Ascari, bastards, and hybrids are only problems when you don't understand the solution. The solution is the nation. The nation is the mutual aid society for racial elites. Okay? So basically it's the leadership. It's the leadership. They're all benefiting each other, right? The African nation is racially African. When it comes to the bastard, as long as an African nation's elites are pure and racially educated, the bastard, if a minority, is not a problem. The recurring problem of the bastard or the mulatto deals with misunderstanding the solution and allowing mulattoes to be elites. Now remember, you go back to what Grenada said. He said, look, you had no right to teach, you had no right to preach, you had no right to so and so. If you were not even a mixed person, but if you were basically for the British before the revolution, you had no right to preach, you had no right to teach, you had no right to a damn job. Okay? You had to flee, or you could have been charged and guilty and killed in America. Okay? And that's for white people who were just hey, we probably shouldn't fight the British. We have a good thing going. We have a good colony going. They said, we will kill you. They said that. Right? And this is the thing about, other governments. I'm not going to hold you. Because sometimes, actually the brother that was talking about, he was criticizing China
for, killing some of his people, Russia for killing some of his people, England for killing some of his people, right? But it's like, yeah, they did that, and when they do that, what happens is that now they can be, of one accord. But like what we have is that we might have, the Ascari who we don't kill, and then the Ascari is in charge, eventually. And this is what happened inside of Haiti. So in Haiti, you didn't kill. I mean, again, you wouldn't have killed the mulatto, because essentially what happened in Haiti was that the mulatto and the Africans worked together to fight the European, right? Now, if you were to then turn around and kill the mulatto, it might have been, whatever. But that's not the issue here, right? So I said the recurring problem of the bastards deals with misunderstanding the solution and allowing bastards to be elites. This was the problem in Kemet. This was the setup in Haiti. This is what happened in Central Eurasia or Arabia. This is what happens formulating with what's formulating with Eastern Eurasia or China. Baba sets up a conversation on bastards, but it's incomplete. The truth is that every elite is a member of a racial group for whom that elite should advocate. This is mutual aid, okay? If I'm a black elite, I should advocate for black people. Or even other black elites. You know what I mean? If I am a white elite, I should advocate for other white elites and other white people. Okay? That's what it's called, mutual aid, right? So the unspoken situation in Haiti is that the Africans promoted the bastards into elite positions. The Africans put mulattoes into elite positions, notwithstanding that the mulattoes were a tiny minority in the population, outnumbered roughly 20-1. Okay? That is desolate, and I wish I had this book. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I have too many freaking books, but not too many books. You never have too many books, but I don't have them organized, right? Irritated Genie, probably the most. I don't really recommend the book. I'm not gonna hold you, because again, I'm not really like, go read this book, go read this book, go read this book. But there's one passage in the book where it's like, hey, this is what Dessalines' cabinet looks like, right? And so I'm just gonna quote it in the Book of Power. I say that is Dessalines' cabinet contained 1 African and 2 mulattoes. His cabinet was 2 mulattoes and 1 African. And then his Council of State contained 6 Africans and 10 mulattoes. Now I know the word is bastards here. I'm trying to be less radical. Huh? The problem of the bastard takeover when so when you say, hey, the mulattoes took over Haiti, when the mulattoes were the majority of the nation. Remember, the nation is this body, the government. Despite being the minority of the population, was self-inflicted. They already had everything. The thing is that Dessalines said, hey, look, I'm the emperor. It doesn't matter who I have surrounding me. Right? That's not a thing. I said worse these mulattoes were, and worse these mulattoes were largely educated to be Eurasianists. And so that makes it even worse, because they could have been like, pro-black. They weren't. They were pro-white. And their leadership, even prior to the revolution, and this is Toussaint Louverture, and the African Bastard Alliance was largely bastard dominationist, right? Like they were about mulatto domination, like even before the revolution. So there was no way for Haiti to have been worked out differently. We have to understand that when you're looking at Haiti, you cannot overstate that realistically there was no chance that Haiti would have been a pro-black state. There was no chance. First off, Toussaint was doing the pro-French straight. Like if you look at Toussaint has a constitution before Dessalines, and it was pretty much, we're going to be a French colony. Okay, that was that. If you look at the constitution, he's like, we are going to be a French colony, and they still kill him for that, right? But then you have these other, like you have Dessalines, who's like, hey, look, like, because here's the thing: if I go anywhere in the world and I say, look, I'm going to set up a government here in Africa, right? And here's my government. Here's my cabinet, and it's all a bunch of Chinese people, right? You think the country's not going to be pro-Chinese? Like, you think just because I'm the freaking leader, I'm the figurehead, because I say, hey, look, I'm the big bad, everybody should fear me, everybody should listen to me. It doesn't matter. If I'm surrounded by Chinese people, they're going to help out other Chinese people. They have to. They're supposed to. If I'm Chinese and I want to get something done, if I want to build a road, who do I go to? Chinese contractors. I go to Chinese contractors. Who else would I go to if I developed my consciousness and I developed my ability and everything in China? Who would I go to?
You know? So I think I might go into Kemet right here, vilifying bastards for it, vilifying the mulattoes for it, misunderstand the situation entirely. Kemet had the same problem insofar as there was a growing bastard and hybrid population that was being unchecked and worse, communicating with and being educated in the hybrid world, then promoted as elites in Kemet. Central Eurasia is a separate, problem of a huge bastard population. But that's the thing. So, in order to understand this situation of the mulattoes, you have to understand: do you have the institutions for African people, right? And two, do not include misogynists or interracial people or biracial people or other racial groups in the elite of your country. Okay? You can use a foreign scientist to advance your science, obviously. You could use a foreign engineer to advance your engineering, obviously. But you cannot put them into positions of power and expect them not to engage one another as separate from you, because everybody is working on a racial boundary. So as far as the question is concerned, I think we're making good time. I don't know. I mean, I may have to, leave at some point. As far as the question is concerned, and I have to keep my phone near me just in case my son's mother. But as far as the question is concerned, it's like world steeped in black power, so on and so forth. The historical example, negative influence. How do you guard against your... The main guard is do not put foreigners into power. I don't go into too much detail. Like, again, with Haiti, they put it directly in. Just right from jump. And like I said, you guys open up irritated gene if you don't believe me. Right? But in Kemet, like, what happened was that eventually, for a long time, they did not put these foreigners in power. Right? It actually starts off with Hatshepsut, apparently. Like, she's the first person to put a foreigner into power for whatever reason. I don't know. It goes further into everybody, y'all favorite trader, y'all favorite Ascati, Amenhotep IV. He's the one who they say is the father of monotheism, basically the father of these religions of peace, Judaism, Islam, Christianity. Basically this person, the author of Proverbs, for those of you who don't know, like, he was just all about put these fucking foreigners inside power, right? Like, put the foreigners up there. But if you do not, like that's all you need to do. What you need to do is just do not put the foreigners in power. Just don't. Just don't put them anywhere near the nation. If they're on the bottom, and as long as they're a minority in the population, they will be bred out. Okay? They will be bred out. But if you put them into power, you're gonna screw yourself. 9 times out of 10. And that's what happens in the thing. And so I think one of the examples that I was thinking of for us is the South African example. Where in South Africa, the people in power, the overclass is a white minority, right? And all the issues that threatens them is the reality that they're going to be a minority. But at the same time, because they practice their own racial purity, or if they practice their own racial purity, they're good in terms of holding on to the power of the state. But if they open themselves up to, let's open our, let's be mixed and all that kind of shit, then obviously the power is going to go away from them. It's just normal and natural. So one of the safeguards is you are in a black majority population. That's really important. The other safeguard is, and the more important safeguard is, your overclass has to be African. So when we talk about African power, African revolution, African state seizure, you want your cooperative, your revolutionaries, if you will, to be pure Africans. You don't want to lead it with, a bunch of, the northern Indians, the Brahmins or whatever, right? You don't want to do it with them. You don't want to do it with a bunch of Chinese. You don't want to do it with a bunch of Americans, a bunch of white Americans or whatever. You want to do it with an African group. Pan-African group preferably, but African group. And when you do so, and you keep the power within our racial group, you're safeguarded. Again, Dessalines never had the safeguard in place. Ancient Egypt had the safeguard for, I want to for a long time, like for 4,000 or 5,000 years. You know what I mean? It
it really was up until Hatshepsut, and then it really declined with your guys' boy, Amenhotep IV. And I shouldn't call my ancestor boy, but you guys get what I'm saying. Amenhotep IV. But then after that, it's just like it's not like, because again, the thing with ancient Egypt was that they always was a large foreign population or a large non-African population, but because it was an African nation, right, as in the African ruling class, like there was a ruling class that was African, it was impermeable, and it was an impenetrable rulership up until Hatshepsut, and definitely when Amenhotep IV came along, it was just completely destroyed. Like he was like a fucking lunatic, and they had to chase him out and restore the religion of Amun, of course. But you know, it's very important that we realize that the safeguard is, one, you want to be in a population that's mostly African, that is in Africa, right? And two, you just want the ruling class, the overclass, to be African in mindset and African in biology. Anyway, so that's pretty much all the questions, unless somebody else has a question. I think it's time for me to actually head out. My son would, yeah. So I think that's it. That's it. So that's the Ask a Pan-African Multi-Nationalist Anything. I appreciate everybody for coming through. You got Wise the Dome. Make sure you guys check him out. You got Ike and Fire, Kofi, Afro Jam, Bill, Nobel War Prize, and you know, check out all these people. Forecast Radio, of course. Shout out to KWZ Radio. You got Lero. She's a part of Harsh Reality Podcast as well. Mr. Frog was here. Emmanuel Briggs was here. And I think that's it. Kofi, of course. Always appreciate. So appreciate everybody for coming through. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been the Ask Me Anything. A lot of it was Pro-Black Compendium, or probably not Pro-Black Compendium. A lot of it was the Book of Power. So make sure you guys look. I'm telling you, it's a useful book. You know, imagine being able to answer any question that I already knew, right? Answer any question just using one book, and of course it's a large book. So make sure you guys get yourself a copy. This copy has been to, I think, 2 different African countries so far. So, you know, shout out to that. I probably should have got some signatures while I was there, right? Other than that, you know, obviously always fly your red, black, and green. And beyond that, you know, Shemi Hotep, Anku Ja, Seneb Neb, Amen, Ma'at, Dua, Necher. Peace.